How many of you sincerely would be okay if you had some tools that could make you a lot more money in your life? Cool. Oh, wow. I love the energy in here already. Usually I get like people doing half this, so that's great. Amazing. And Lindsay talked about it before. A lot of times if I go around as a coach, people usually talk about three things that they're challenged with. Number one is they don't have enough money. Number two is they don't have enough time. And number three is they don't have enough energy. Like they just want to bring more of themselves to life. Does that make sense? So I'm going to address all three of those, but the major player today is going to be time. When you leave here, you will have 28 hours in a day. Cool or cool? All right? I'm going to show you how to make that happen. But sincerely, the Sunday System for Success I'm going to share with you today has reportedly from the people that use it, gives them about an extra 10 hours a week. So that's what you can expect to get. You will be more productive, more efficient, more effective. You will be able to take advantage of more opportunities. You will be less stressed. And by the way, when you're less stressed, who benefits from that a lot? Who said family? What is your name? Give Scott a round of applause.
And of course he did. Everybody knows Scott. Of course he did.
Yeah, of course. So so you're going to see that we often get stressed, and when we're stressed, we take it on the people that we love. And I just want to offer for you that, wouldn't it be cool is that if you, like, leaders are better prepared in life, yes? And people that struggle have a story around it. They're like, oh my God, you don't understand how busy my life is, all the responsibilities I have, and I got this going on, I got to send that, and these emails are piling up, and the dog is sick, and blah, 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 blah. And what do you want? And that's how some people live their life. I know nobody in here, but you know people, yes? Right? So the idea is to find out how do we use the tools that the most successful people are using so that you can bring more of you to each hour, so that you're intentional, you're purposeful. How many of you have ever gone to the gym and seen somebody spend an hour there, but they spent half of it on their phone, sitting on a bench, looking at the phone, on the treadmill, kind of like this, and they probably left saying, I spent an hour in the gym, but they weren't necessarily effective or really getting a really, really badass result. How many of you have seen this happen? Yes? How many of you have seen somebody go into the office, and in Keller Williams, we time block, right? And you time block your lead generation, and if you're honest, sometimes you're not really producing at the rate that you could. How many of you have had that experience or seen people? So we're going to change that philosophy today. My goal with you is to have it so that when you show up to an appointment with yourself, you are going to rock that appointment, whatever it is. You're going to show up intentionally, purposefully, and productively. I'm going to give you the tools that worked for me. But before I do that, a couple of rules before we get started. Number one is don't believe a word I say. Now, why would I suggest that? It's because I can only come from my experience. So I'm going to say some things today, and you're going to go, that's super cool, but part of your mind is also going to say, like, that's not going to work for me, Rock. I'm not bald like you, that won't work, right? Or some part of you is not going to relate to it, and it's going to close your mind. I'm going to ask you to keep your mind open. Is that okay if you keep your mind open? Yes? Awesome. The second part is about participation, and the way that you're going to learn the most here is if you participate. So I'm going to make it super easy. I'm going to walk around the room. If I see you dozing off or checking your phone, I'm just going to stand really close to you, so you're going to feel uncomfortable, right? I have eyes in the back of my head, and the reason I'm going to do that is because I care about you getting the most out of this time that we spend together. I'm also going to leave the last word off the end of my sentences sometimes, so your mind will automatically fill in the blank. Oh, I'm going to like this today. You guys are on. I'm also going to ask you just to shout some things out, and I may even get crazy and ask you to high-five the person beside you. All right? Like, wow. Let's try. Let's try that. High-five the person beside you and say, you are a badass. You are a badass. All right. We're going to have fun today. I like this group. I like this group a lot. Yeah, this is a very good group. I'm impressed already. I know. I like it, Alan. I like it. So in my first book, The Power of Your Identity, I wrote about the concept that the words that follow I am follow you. Now, if you say I am a badass, then you'll tend to behave like a badass. Does that make sense? Depending on your definition of that. If you say I am really bad with organization, you'll probably prove that to other people. Oh, no, you don't understand. I'm not organized at all. I'm a procrastinator. I arrive late. Once you start to live into those words, you start to experience that as who you are. And I grew up with some labels that didn't serve me, and I'm sure that you probably did too. Some people suggested you were a certain way, like maybe you're shy, or maybe you're not a natural salesperson, or maybe you're good with people, but you're not good with paperwork, whatever it is, and then you're living into that. Does that make sense? Yeah. But some of it is not true. It was a suggestion. So I'm going to ask you just to kind of be aware of that inner narrative that you have with yourself today and say, is that useful, or can I shift it? Would it be useful to shift that? I'll give you a specific example. When I was growing up, my brother called me pizza face because I had a lot of acne. And my brother was shorter than me. And he was looking for a way to level the playing field, right? So he started to take little pieces out of me. And I wanted his love. We came from a broken family. My father remarried, and he was my stepbrother, and I wanted to be part of the family. So I wanted to please him. So I sort of, was that pleaser. We would play games, and I'd let him win, and we'd do things. And he bullied me, and initially I didn't know how to respond to it, so I just allowed it to happen. So every day from then on, I would go out, get up in the morning, I'd look in the mirror, and what do you think I said to myself? That's right. I am pizza face. I am ugly. I am weird. People are looking at me. I don't want to go to school and feel left out. And then I'd walk down the hallway at school, and you'd hear two people kind of laughing in the locker, and you think they're looking at you, and you would make up that they're looking at you, and you'd say that they're laughing at my acne. Does that make sense? So I took this on for years and years and years. I even moved to Australia when I was in my early 20s because I discovered that the sun would dry up my acne. It made me feel better about myself. And it was a place, I don't know why, I could have moved probably to Arizona. I figured that out later, but I went to Australia, and I spent a lot of time suntanning because it made me feel better about my acne. When I came back in my 20s, I discovered this technology about changing your identity. And I had somebody that was a mentor for mine, and he taught me how to go from pizza face to a different identity. I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But before I do that, I just want to tell you a little bit about my journey in real estate, because I'm in real estate like you guys, and how I went from being a hard worker on a farm to becoming more of a smart worker with my mind versus just my hands, and how I evolved in that identity. So after my parents got divorced when I was 5, I moved out on the farm with my dad. I was the youngest of 7 kids. And in order to get attention from my father, which I wanted him to tell me how proud he was of me, the way I got to him was I worked hard because my father was a workaholic. So we didn't play. So what I did was I did as many chores around the house as I could, and then I would run to him. I'd say, okay, I finished putting up the barbed wire fence. I finished painting the barn. I finished feeding the animals. Come and look at my work, waiting for those famous words, good job, I'm proud of you. And guess what happened? No, he would come out, and my father's got a German-Dutch background, very, he would come out, and he would invariably look at something, and we are all our programming, yes? Yes. And you have been programmed mostly by your parents, your teachers, and people that have taken care of you, and where you've wanted love from them. And they were programmed by their parents. So my father was programmed by his parents, and my father went through the war, and his parents got divorced, and his mother had difficulty with the divorce. I think that his father had an affair on her and that sort of thing. And she ended up getting a lot of dogs and never remarried. And he grew up with her mostly, and she would feed the dogs filet mignon before he got to eat, and then she would feed him hamburger meat. Think about the psychology of what happens to a child when you say you eat after the dog and you eat something that is less expensive than what I'm going to feed the dog. So then when he came out to tell me how my job was, he was coming from that programming. And what he would point out all the time was what was missing. You missed that. You could have put the barbed wire fence tighter. You should paint that more. What are you thinking? You missed that. So I think in life we have 2 ways to respond, and the way I responded was, oh yeah? Not good enough? I'll do it better next time. So every job, before I would call him over, I would think, what will he say? That will be missing. And I'll paint it a little bit more. I'll pull it tighter. I'll dig it deeper so that he cannot find something. And this became this competition between him and I. And every time I called him over, he always found something. And I just kept on working harder and working harder and working harder. And that led to a development of a really great habit called a work ethic. So I became really, really good at that. And at the age of 17, I realized it was time to leave home, and I went out into the world, and I did all kinds of jobs. I drove a taxi. I had my friends cutting lawns for me. I washed houses. I mean, if somebody said there's a job, I would like, yes, I'm in. They go, you don't even know what it is. I go, it doesn't matter, I'm in. And I would just do it. I worked 12, 14, 16 hours a day. By the time I was in my late 20s, I owned 3 buildings. I had a senior citizen home. I was very entrepreneurial. I was almost a millionaire. And I did it all through hard work, 12, 14, 16, 18 hours a day. That's what I was programmed for, the same way you're programmed for something. The way you're showing up today is just your programming. And then my father got cancer. And at the age of, I think, 28 and a half, I flew to Australia to take care of him where he'd moved. And I went back and forth for 2 years. And by the time it was done, my marriage fell apart. I lost my job. I was working in the airlines at the time and running all the senior citizen home part-time. And my father, I discovered, had some debt with the Canadian government. He was very good at making money, and he was very good at looking good. He had a nice car. He always had the 3-piece suits. He always had a nice library of nice books. He gave money away to the church. He gave money away to the SPCA. And he always forgot to pay the government somehow. So on his deathbed, he asked me if I would take that on so that his wife did not have to take that responsibility because she was not good with money. I was like, Dad, neither of you were, actually. But I didn't say that. He was about 98 pounds. It was the last time I was going to see him. I was on my way back to Canada. And it was in that moment that I summoned up the courage and I said, Dad, and now imagine, I had flown back and forth to Australia 3 times. I had moved him out of his house into a smaller home. I was taking on responsibility to pay his debt. I'd taken care of him. I was the youngest of 7 brothers and sisters. And I was the one, even though I had 3 of them living there, that flew all the way out there and did most of the work because I was so desperate to hear what phrase? I'm proud of you. Imagine, one phrase can change the way you behave every day. I bet you have a phrase that drives you, something you're seeking. And the journey is about awareness, right? So when you learn what those phrases are and what drives you, then you can now decide what are the vehicles that are going to meet those needs. So I was there on the side of the bed, and I'm like, Dad, taxi's in the driveway, I'm about to leave, and I was just wondering, is there, I was really nervous at the time. I was thinking, you know, there's so many things he's got to be proud of, so many things I did good. But what if he chooses a really lousy one and it doesn't come out right? So I was really nervous. But I summoned up, in life, if you get those 5 or 10 seconds of courage where you walk across into that FSBO and you ask them for the listing instead of driving by and hesitating, or if you want to ask that girl out on a date and you walk across the room even though you're nervous, it gives you that opportunity. Or if you go to your boss and you ask for a raise, it takes those 5 or 10 seconds of courage, yes? But most people fail in that area. They listen to the inner narrative, the things like, yeah, but what if they say no? What if this happens? What if that happens? I remember once I was walking through a field or on my way to work. I walked by this tennis court, and there was this lovely girl there. And I thought, oh my God, it would be great to ask her out on a date. I'm like 17, 18 years old, right? And my brain's like, oh yeah, but what if she rejects you? And I remembered that I had read this book, and in that book there was one sentence I'll never forget. It says, do what you fear, and it will disappear. And ever since then, I imagined like 1,000 Post-it notes on a wall, and I would write down something in my mind of everything that I feared, and if I would just have the courage for 5 or 10 seconds to tear that off and step into it, go up to that FSBO, make that call, ask for the raise, ask for somebody to be a partner, you know, to increase something in my life, then I could take all those fears off the board and I would be less fearful and more courageous. So I walk across, I'm walking up, I'm going toward this girl, and what do you think's happening in my mind? Am I confident? No, I'm full of doubt. I'm like, what if she rejects you? And as of course I'm walking towards her, this couple walk up to ask her a question. I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm going to ask her in front of a couple, and they're going to now laugh at me too. Meanwhile, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm going, what? What am I saying do you think? I'm pizza face, pizza face, pizza face, pizza face. I'm thinking to myself, you're ugly, you're skinny, you're stupid, all the stuff that my lovely brothers and sisters offered to me for years to build my self-esteem, right? I'm walking, but there's something inside of me that says, keep on going. How many of you have that little voice, right, that says, keep on going? There's a way. Grab life big. Make it happen. You can find it. And you have, like, how many of you have a little voice in your mind? Yes? How many of you have more than one? Those voices have these little arguments, right? Bilingual. So I walk up to her, and I get to her, and I have no idea what I'm going to say. But I stay encouraged, and I get close to her, and I'm like, Bond. James Bond. And this is exactly what happens. She laughs at me like, you idiot. Right? But part of her recognized that I was courageous. And we ended up dating for a while. And what did I learn from that? It's the same thing as a real estate agent. You don't need to know what to say. Many of you are stuck on the dialogues. You're like, I can't go call an expired or a physical because I don't know what to say. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. If you go to serve and you show up from that place, it doesn't matter what you say. Be vulnerable, be authentic. How many listings do you have? 0. You'd be my first one. But man, will I take care of you. 24/7, right? That's worked for people, believe it or not. If you're the top agent, great, you've got that. If you're a single agent, you've got that. If you're on a team, you've got that. True or true? What you have to access is the courage. So I'm sitting there with my father, and I'm accessing that courage. Now, courage means what? What is courage? What's the definition of courage? Yes. It comes from the French word courage, right, which is cœur, heart. Yes. What is your name? Michael. Michael. Give Michael a round of applause, please. So courage is having the ability to take action in spite of the fear being present. And every time you do that, you become more courageous. And to be around other people, like Jim and Lindsay as an example, who are encouragers, yes? And Alan, yes? What are they doing? They're saying, I see you might be fearful, but I'm saying take action anyway. I believe in you. And they're encouraging you. They're installing courage, and they're inviting you for you to access the courage. I know it sounds very simplistic, but it'll change your freaking life. Now, you may win when you take action, but you may also not get the result that you want. Is that fair to say? So you've got to change the meaning. You must become a meaning master. So here's what I do. I don't know if it's useful for you, but maybe try it. Instead of winning and losing, she rejects me, or my father doesn't tell me what I want, there's winning and learning. Who here likes to learn? Who here would like to never fail again in your life? Then just change that meaning, change the context. You will never fail again unless you quit. But if you get the result that you want, awesome. If you learn because that doesn't work, you just learned, and learning's cool. Learning's fun. Learning makes you better, so you don't lose. So you never fail. So I say to my dad, Dad, there must be something you're proud of me, you know, right? And he looks me straight in the eye. Nothing that I can think of. Whew. Like I say that today, I can't even believe somebody could say that. Just lie to me, you know? Say something. And I remember leaving there, getting in the cab and driving to the airport in Sydney, and it was a long ride, and I cried. And I got on the plane, it was a 22-hour flight, and I got home. I was evicted from my apartment. I moved back in with my mom, and my approximately $800,000 of 20 years of working 12, 14, 16 hours a day, gone. seeking that phrase. And I thought, what now? I'd lost my job in the airlines. I'd sued them for wrongful dismissal, taking care of my father. I lost a ton of money doing that. Everything I did was wrong. I started to head to the bar to feel better about myself, hung out with a bunch of other people that were doing the same thing, feeling sorry for themselves. I was doing everything wrong. I had my father to guide me anymore. My mom was a gypsy. I didn't have any mentors. So guess what I decided to do? Yes! Exactly. So we were talking before, I went into an open house and I thought, if that's all it takes, man, I'm going to kill it, right? So I get into real estate, get my license, and I just walk into an office and start in Canada, Montreal, Canada. And now I want you to think about my programming, my identity for a moment, just so you can relate it to yourself. I don't know when you start into real estate what field you came from, but you bring part of that experience, and some of it's useful and some of it isn't so useful. Does that make sense? They say teachers and nurses make really great real estate agents. So I came in and I was a carpenter and I was a farm boy. So I was used to working with 2x4s and goats. And now relating to people and signing contracts and doing paperwork, I didn't have any skill set there. So I knocked on doors and I ran around. I didn't even come to meetings like this because I was too afraid to be around other people. I was so antisocial, right? I was the youngest of 7 kids, and my brothers and sisters used to always make fun of me. Whenever I spoke, they'd go, "You can't even speak properly, string words together. Don't even bother speaking. It's a joke." So I would sit at the table with my brothers and sisters. I wouldn't talk. So I didn't have experience communicating because I just didn't use my voice. So then when I would meet people, I didn't know what to say. And so imagine that person trying to make it in real estate. So what I did, the only thing I did basically was I knocked on doors. And I just tried to get listings. I didn't even know what to say. But I was courageous. And I was willing to work hard. So I just kept on going and going and going. And eventually people would let me in. And I'd get a little further. And then I'd hit an objection. And then I would, get kicked out. And I'd get a little further the next time. And then I started to listen to some of the things in the office. They had some books and some courses. And I started to get a little bit better. Eventually, I sold 1 home in my first year. I made $4,000 and I was exasperated. But I had 32 listings. Now, they were mostly overpriced and out of control and blah, blah, blah. But I had 32 listings. And there was a broker from another office that was looking to recruit people. And they looked and they saw I had 32 listings, which was more than most people. Most people had like 4 or 6 listings. And he thought, let me talk to this kid. So they called me in, he interviewed me, and he goes, if you're willing to do what I say, I can make you a very successful agent. You have 2 ingredients that most agents don't have. Number 1, you have an incredible work ethic. You're willing to do what has to be done. And number 2, you're passionately curious. You've asked me a lot of questions in this interview, and I think that you're open to being coached. Would you agree with that? And I said, yes. He goes, you need to do exactly what I say. Like, not question it. Don't waste any energy going like, well, there must be a better way to do that. He goes, I'm going to give you the formula you need to execute. Everything else will be a waste of your energy. Just trust me for 6 months after that, you can kick it out. I go, deal. Next year I sold 35 properties, then 45, then 65, then 99, and then I bought the company. Took it from 94 agents to 270 agents, sold $1 billion a year. Within 4 years of being in debt for $30,000, I became a millionaire. I sold the company for $4 million in 2006. Not bad timing, huh?
So smart. That's not courage. Hold on.
And then you bought it back for $1 million.
Almost. So then I sold it, and I moved actually down here to Florida. It was my dream to put my son into a school of golf, so we went to Sarasota for the David Ledbetter School of Golf, and I spent about 200 days a year on the golf course with my son. Being the father to him Exactly. I think that if we can break the cycle of the things that didn't work out for us, then I think that we move forward the evolution of our family, and that was my goal. Today, my son is not a golf pro. He is a one handicap, but he is a real estate agent in my Keller Williams office in Canada, and he does very well. He's 27 years old. His first year, he made about $60,000. His second year, he made about $250,000, and this year, he'll make about $500,000 or $600,000. Now, he doesn't make it all selling real estate. He's modeled his father in making money in flipping properties and buying and holding and buying properties and turning them into student housing. And he believes in passive income because I'm a big believer in passive income. How many of you own investments in real estate? Okay, cool. It's more than most that I get. How many of you think, though, that it would make sense? You're in real estate. You're probably going to come across a deal that it would be good for you to buy one or two of those deals every once in a while, yes? So I'm going to challenge you to do that by the end of today's conversation, because it's great to work really hard, but it's also great to have the option to not have to work hard. How many of you would agree with that? Right? So if you have passive income, you can do that. I'm going to share with you some of the things that I did, but I have 37 streams of income today. I don't have to work. I have 2 Keller Williams offices, and I spend a few hours a month as an OP of one of those offices and an investor in another. I own lots of real estate, and I have some online coaching programs and books and different things like that, so that, you turn on your computer in the morning and it's nice, it's mailbox money, and you look at it, and you can go golfing if you want to, right? So those are some of the things. I value passive income at 10 times the vertical income. Even if you're making $400,000 or $500,000 a year, if you leave and you're not making that anymore, then something could happen to you like happened to me with my dad. When I stopped working and I took care of loved ones, everything fell apart because I didn't know how to manage it. I didn't know how to continue having it come in. Does that make sense? So today is about time freedom. How do we get it so that you could do what you want, when you want, whenever you want, with whom you want, on your terms? And if that means putting 80 hours a week into your real estate business, God bless, right? If it means developing your partnership with Title Alliance and pushing the envelope there and having that as a passive income vehicle, God bless. But it might also mean taking piano lessons like I'm taking now at the age of 56, right? How many of you saw the movie The Star is Born, right? So I've learned how to play that song, Shallow. It's this cool thing to do, right? And it keeps your brain young. So there's things that you can do, but guess what? It's like an hour and a half a day of doing scales and stuff that's not very cool, but I have the time to do it. And I stopped playing golf for 6 or 7 years, and I've started taking up golf again. I'm back, and my game was terrible for a while, and now it's coming back because I have the time I can put into it. So what are some of the things that you want to work on? You could stay busy all the time, and many of you do, yes? The question is, how productive are you? You have the same amount of time as Bill Gates. So how do we get you to be more productive? And that's what I want to share with you today. So let's get started. See if this little baby works here. And how many of you have been coached? Yes? How many of you currently have a coach? Awesome. How many of you are coaches? Nice. And how many of you have never been coached? How many of you will not raise your hand no matter what I say? Right? So if you've never been coached, I'm going to offer for you that's a consideration. And the reason is this, is that we all have blind spots, yes? How did you learn to walk? Were you coached? Did you get feedback from your parents maybe? That could qualify as coaching a bit, yes? Were you encouraged? Yes. And coaching is a lot of that. In fact, coaching is a lot telling you what you already know that you're not freaking doing. Many of you know what to do, but you're not doing what you... Let's try that again. Many of you know what to do, but you're not doing what you... Yes, or what you know, right? I know I should work out more. I know I should get up before the alarm goes off and hit snooze 5 times. I know I should lead generate more. I know I should have a better attitude. I know I should call my mom more. I know I should spend more quality time with my kids. I know I should be complaining less. I know I should be less of a victim. I know I should stand less close to the microphone speaker thing, right? Should know that by now. So I just put this in here for the fun of it because I like to have fun when I do these talks, and this reminds me sometimes of the people that I coach. So let's see, where is it? Should play, right? So that's me up top, and that's some of my clients down the bottom. No, but I'm familiar with it down here. I know it down here. What is up there? No, it's scary up there. Come on, come on. I know you've got it. Come on, come with me. It's really cool up here. Okay, not so bad. So maybe just be willing to be open. Okay, how do I go to the next slide? I get to watch that 5 times now. All right, turn to somebody, give them a high five, and say you're still a badass. All right, so many years ago, when I sold my business in 2009-10, I went to many real estate agencies across North America. I spoke about 110 times, doing a talk called Make It Happen No Matter What. And it was really about getting people to take massive action, to get themselves to be able to do the things that they knew that they should do that they weren't doing. I became fascinated with the psychology of why we can't get ourselves to do the things we know that we should, and why we do some things, aka addictions or bad habits, that don't serve us. And we keep on leaning into those. And I became a student of Tony Robbins. Anybody heard of Tony Robbins? Anybody been to a Tony Robbins event? Very cool. I've been to 74 of them. I'm a trainer for him. I've spent so many hours with him, I can finish his sentences, right? And Tony talks a lot about, if you would agree with me, Tony's kind of message is what? What would you say Tony's known for? High energy, yes. So check this out. 42 years he's been doing this, an average of 180 events a year, never canceled one. Ever. For any reason, like sick or never. That's pretty impressive, you ask me. So what I do is I take somebody like that and I go, in the area of energy, I'm going to model him. I'm going to figure out what he eats, what his attitude is, how he talks to himself, what his belief systems are, so that I can model that level of energy. Does that make sense? Yeah. Then what I did with real estate, I was in RE/MAX for a long time. I looked at Dave Liniger and some of the top people there, and I got, okay, what are they doing that's really great? And I was with them for a while. When I wanted to improve my golf game, I hired a guy named Butch Harmon. Anybody ever heard of that name? Who did he coach? Tiger. I paid him $2,000 for 20 minutes of his time. I went from an 8 handicap to a 3 handicap and shot 68 within 2 months. Distinctions, small little tweaks. He told me one thing: you're a draw player. Don't fight it. But I needed somebody with certainty to teach me that. Does that make sense? The same way somebody should walk into your business and say you're a listing kind of an agent versus a buyer's agent. Stick and focus on that and hire yourself a buyer's agent. When I sold 100 homes a year, I had 1 administrative assistant and I had 1 buyer's agent. All I did was get listings. That's all I did. I got on the phone in the morning, I prospected. I got on the phone at night, and I prospected, and I want listing presentations. And the goal of the administrator was to keep me away from the noise. And I just was a generating machine. And the buyer's agent did all the paperwork. I would walk in after I listed a property, I'd put the file on the desk, and I'd go back in, put my headset back on, and start calling again. They did all of the paperwork. Make sense? So you want to know what you're good at. You want to get clarity, then you want to have somebody who's been massively successful, your coach, your mentor, whatever, say, this, I agree. That's your lane. That's what you should be doing if you want to kill it. Does that make sense? Turn to somebody, give them a high five, and say, he's finally making sense. All right, so as I was As I was traveling, I would do a talk like this, and people would come up to me and they'd say, Rock, I want to hire you as a coach, and I want to learn from you so that I can accelerate my business. So I started selling coaching, and I was doing 30 conversations a week. And guess what? Do you think many of the conversations were similar? Yeah. The same way we have the same objections when we go to clients, yes? And there's maybe 6 or 8 objections, and if you get really good at handling them, you get really confident, you go in, you're almost like, yeah, come on, give me one. Tell me that I should cut my commission. Come on, go ahead. When they don't ask me, I'm like disappointed. I'm like, I'm ready, man, I'm ready. Give that one to me, right? You want to have that confidence when you go in, and it comes from actually doing something that I call CSI, which I learned from Tony, which is after every appointment, you take 5 minutes and you write in your journal in your book, which I'm sure you guys all do, what did I do that was great? I sat, opposite them. I looked them in the eye. I controlled the conversation, right? I saw him looking at her and kind of nudging, don't sign the contract, but I could pick up the body language, so I know how to lead into that, change the conversation, right? I owned the table. I was in control. That was awesome. I was great. But I forgot to bring a contract when they were ready to sign. Don't, what? Right? So then I would write down the things that I could do to improve so that I wouldn't repeat that error. Does that make sense? That's how I got better and better every time. And often, have you ever had this, is that you're in the office, you're an okay agent, or maybe you're pretty good, or maybe you're not, whatever, and you look down the hallway at somebody else and you go, like, I'm way smarter than that person. I'm better looking. I'm funnier, or whatever you say. And how are they crushing me in business? Who's ever had that experience, right? It's little things like doing what I call CSI, Creative Suggestions for Improvement. Every day writing down what you did great. Every day writing down what you could improve. How many of you think that Tiger Woods maybe does that process? How many think he might do that? Yes? What if you had a caddy in your business? What if you were to go, what's your name? John. John, you're going to go on a listing presentation. I'm your caddy, right? I'm like, okay, man, tell me about the clients. Who are they? And you tell me, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. What kind of house? Are you comfortable with your market analysis? You feel you got it dialed in? Yes?
Yes.
And how much, do they have a pool?
Yes.
Yes. How much more is their house worth because they have a pool versus the neighbor?
Yeah, 15,000.
15,000. Oh, good. So if they ask you that, you can just pull that number out?
Ready to go.
Cool. I love that. Good, good. Sounds like you're really ready. Good. Imagine you had a caddy, right, that would talk you through that. And then after your presentation, you'd break it down and go, okay, we got that listing. We got it a little bit high, but we can get them to lower the price later. What will be our strategy? Oh, we already suggested that if we don't have enough traffic in the first 3 weeks, we'll need to reduce the price. That was awesome. Good, good. You see what I'm saying? And if you were to do that on a consistent basis, would you get better? Yes or yes? Yes. That's what I did. And then I started to teach the agents in my office to do that. And then they started to go from 80,000 to 140 to 180 to 250. And then guess what? Everybody in the neighborhood wanted to be in our office. We went from 94 agents to 265 agents at the top. Success breeds success. I have a saying, as you pay the price in practice of private, you can perform in public like a pro. If you pay the price to practice in private, you can perform in public like a pro. How many of you would agree that it takes discipline to come out of that listing presentation when you didn't get the listing, to sit in your car for 5 minutes and go, all right, what did I do that was great? And write it in your journal and capture that. It takes discipline, yes? Commitment, yes? Most of the time, what do? I'm going to guess. You come out of that listing, you don't get the listing, and you don't journal on it, you don't take the notes, you make some justification to feel better about it. True or true? Oh, they're going to list with that discount broker. Oh, they're sisters in real estate. I didn't know that. If they told me, I wouldn't have wasted 3 hours doing a CMA and going in there, right? If you justify, blame, or complain, who has the power? Who does? They do. When we see a leader take responsibility. We have respect for them. Yes? Why? They own it. Yes, they were accountable. It's such an admirable quality. It's hard to go there all the time because we want to feel good about ourselves. So what I did was I came up with these top 10 rules of the same things that I went over with everybody I was coaching. And I just felt that I kept on saying these things over and over again. I would ask somebody, I would say, are you 30 minutes a day, are you giving yourself some form of motivation and some sort of education? Are you reading? Are you listening to a podcast, listening to a book? No, I get up in the morning and the kids go crazy and I run around, I get in the car, there's not enough gas in the car, and then I'm late at work and I don't have enough coffee and then I spill something on my dress, I have to run back home and then by the time I get home, I'm freaking exhausted, Rock. I have a couple of glasses of wine, I wipe out watching Netflix. When am I going to do that? I'm like, well, that's part of the problem, is you're not reprogramming yourself. How many of you have a phone? Anybody? Right? How many of you ever get that notice that says, please download new software? Anybody? How many of you go, no way, man. Sticking with the old stuff, baby. You can't get me into that evolution. Right? That's basically what people are doing. You're like, I'm not going to add new information in my brain. I'm not going to be inspired by other people. I'm not going to read stuff. How many of you have seen a video or something and it moved you emotionally and you're like, oh, I could take on the world today after watching that video? Yes? Something inside of you. I mean, I don't know if you maybe aren't a Tiger fan or you are, but I watched the Masters because the comeback story, yes, some of you did? And I cried. I admit it, I cried. I feel like he's evolved as a human. Yeah, he made mistakes. Some of them are deplorable, yes. But I really think that he's trying to be a really good person. And he overcame massive physical ailments. He is rule number 10. Make it happen no matter what. That's an attitude, yes? When you go into a listing, you can go into a listing and you can say, I think, I hope I want to get it. Or you can go, they'll be lucky if I take it. Because I'm freaking awesome. That's an attitude. Do they feel that? Yes or yes? 100%. Because the first language that we all speak, you're all bilingual, by the way. You think you're not, but you are. The first language you speak is body language. I play a lot of sports, and I can tell you one thing. When I walk onto the field against my opponent, I can almost guarantee you whether I'm going to win or lose just by looking at their physiology. Does that make sense? Yes. It's so subtle, though. If you're not paying attention, you don't see it. Most people are so internal, they're worried about themselves, they're not even looking. But because I used to be beaten up by my brothers and sisters so much, I have eyes in the back of my head. So I learned to be able to check the landscape and go, am I going to die today or not? Right? So when I play sports, I'm exceptionally good at it. What makes me a really good coach is I'm strategic. I see what other people don't see because of the programming I had being raised in an environment that was hostile. My brain adapted. Does that make sense? Some of you are incredibly compassionate. Some of you are amazingly funny. Some of you are awesome with technology. Some of you are caretakers. You see the needs of people around you. Oh my God, she doesn't have a glass of water. Let me get that for her. Some of you see people that are left out, and you make them feel included. Some of you have strong triceps and weak biceps. I have a very strong tricep called warrior because I grew up that way. And I've spent many parts of my life learning to be a little bit more sensitive, compassionate, understanding. Does that make sense? So it doesn't really matter what you started with. It matters is, do you want to fill in the other parts? Do you want to become more whole, more complete? Not that you're broken, not that we're broken. It's just that if your parents programmed you in a certain way, and your environment programmed you in a certain way, it's like saying to a baseball player, you're really good at hitting the ball, you're not so good at catching, but we're not going to work on that. so you don't make it. What they do is they go, you've got talent here. These are the areas of possibility. Let's lean into those and let's make you whole and complete. And if you can't, because you don't have that talent or the work ethic, then you won't make it to the major leagues. Does that make sense? So I was not good with people, but my mentor taught me how to relate to people. He sent me on a Dale Carnegie course, Effective Speaking. Told me to join Toastmasters. He got me to read books like How to Win Friends and Influence People. He told me, it's okay to smile, Rock. You know? And I started to grow and get better. There's a big difference between skills and natural abilities. Do you think that salespeople, is that a natural ability or a skill? What would you think? Both? Can you learn to be a great salesperson?
Yes.
So you may have a natural affinity that you are good with people. You're just actually interested in people. You're curious about them. Oh, where are you from? No way, I'm from there too. Oh, you like pasta? Me too. Whoa. Right? People that are like that. But I learned from reading Dale Carnegie that it's better to be an interested person than an interesting person. Most people think that they need to be interesting and they stress themselves out because they have self-doubt. So like, I'm not really interesting. I can't tell jokes. I can't tell stories. What am I going to do? I don't know, right? But the reality is, if you want to be a great sales person, you need to ask lots of what? And you need to listen a lot, right? So what you really need to be a great salesperson is the same thing you need to be a great person, is you need to ask quality questions. Why can I not make $100,000 easily? Because you're lazy, you're a loser, you're stupid. Your brain will offer you those answers. And I'll prove it to you. Do not answer this. Whatever you do not even in your head, okay? Don't. Do not answer this question. 2 plus 2. Your brain will answer every question you ask it. So if you know that, wouldn't it make sense to ask really cool questions? Why am I so happy today? Why am I so blessed? Why am I so lucky? How come great opportunities just keep on coming my way? Even when things go sideways and I don't expect it, I respond in such a happy way. It's so cool. Could you talk to yourself like this? I was at the airport the other day, and actually we were traveling yesterday, our flight got delayed. These two, I don't know how well you know Jim and Lindsay, but these two people are awesome. So they've been traveling a lot lately, and they had flight delay after flight delay after flight delay, lost luggage, etc. And we have on rule number 9, if you look at rule number 9, be a meaning master. How many of you would agree that we spend most of our days attributing meanings to things? Would you agree? Like you're sitting here right now, your brain is going, on some level, this is really cool, or when can I get out of here? Right? Your brain is offering meanings. You know, I got to pee, but I don't want to be rude, so what am I going to do? I shouldn't have drank so much coffee, but I want to drink that water because I'm thirsty. You're constantly doing this. Real estate is, fill in the blank. Awesome. Real estate is, what else? Crazy, what else?
Amazing life opportunity.
Amazing life opportunity.
And the truth is, a lot of people would say hard work.
And hard work. So if you say real estate is hard work, what will it be for you? That's right. So the conversation we have with ourselves is crucial. So I start to help people through these 10 rules, help people have better conversations with themselves. That's really what coaching is. And I don't say I have all the answers, but gravity, whether you believe in it or not, it does affect you. True? And there are principles in life that are the same thing. Garbage in, garbage out. If you listen to crap and listen to CNN all the time, eventually you're going to be freaked out and stressed and think the world is going to die. Right? No, but really, come on. And there's a reason. CNN is not a news channel. What is CNN? Entertainment. What they do is they sell entertainment. They use news as their content, but they glorify it. And the reason they can do that is because the mind has one job, which is to do what? To do what? To absorb, yes. What else? What is your mind's job? Processing in order to do what? Yes, to protect yourself. That's its only freaking job. Its job is not to make you happy. Its job is not to make you rich. Your job is not to give you orgasms. It's not its job. Okay?
It's not?
Unless you look at your bank account, maybe you have a mental orgasm. I don't know. For some of us, that works, right? But your mind's job is to keep you safe and in survival, and it uses fear as its weapon. So CNN knows this. So it keeps on saying, did you hear about this report? There's a loose person on the street that is doing this and that. Gunmen here. And you're like, oh my God, what if my children are safe? And you get full of fear. True or true? And then they're like, oh, the stock market is at a top. What is going to happen now? Real estate is hitting a bubble. And it's constantly getting you to live in fear. I don't listen to the news, right? I mean, in passing at the airport or what have you. I listen to hours and hours of audiobooks, podcasts. I infuse myself with possibility, with conversations of opportunity. And I get myself excited about things, right? I'm going to invite you to do the same thing. So I share all that with you because I think that if you were to look at that and if you were to say, am I on that track? You would see that you are on the track for massive success. And if you're not, you're violating any one of those rules, I guarantee you're slowing down your possibilities for success in this material world that we live in. Does that make sense? So we're not going to go through them all today. In fact, we're not even going to look at them anymore. All right, so we're going to get into your manuals. We're going to do a little bit of work. But you've been sitting for a while, so everybody please stand up for a second. Go ahead and stand up. I'll just stretch out a little bit. Just put your hands up in the air like this and stretch over this side. Oh, and over this side over here. Oh, and gently back. Oh, please don't moan while you're doing it. Touch your toes if you can. Oh, the mic gets close to my mouth when I do that. All right, so while you're standing, let's just do a cool little exercise for a moment. Just put your finger out in front of you. Make sure that you're not going to whack anybody if you were to turn in a circle. So separate a little bit. So in a moment, when please?
In a moment.
In a moment, thank you. I'm going to have you turn to your right. To your what? Right. To your right, as far as you can until you feel some discomfort. Okay? So just you're going to turn until you feel some discomfort, and I want you to imagine a clock. And you're going to go to 3 o'clock or 4 or whatever it is, and then just time stamp it in your mind. You go, okay, 5 o'clock or whatever it is. So you just go ahead until you feel a little discomfort and stop. And come back and time stamp it. Whatever you did, just keep that in your mind. Now put your arm down for a second and close your eyes. If your eyes are open and you see me, then go ahead and close them. I want you now to imagine that you are like Gumby. You're incredibly flexible. You're relaxed. You're excited about your future. You see things happening effortlessly, easily. You see yourself going further than you ever have before in life. And you're excited about it. It just seems like it's meant to be. So in a moment, you're going to raise your hand. Not yet. In a moment, you're going to raise your hand. And then you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to go as far as you possibly can. Easily and effortlessly, you're going to go all the way around as far as you can. I want you to see yourself doing it now. Feel yourself doing it. And feel the joy of going further than you ever have before. All right, go ahead, open your eyes. Put your finger in front of you. And go, 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 as far as you can, as far as you possibly can. Go, 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 go. Yes. And back to the front. So how many of you went further? Wow, twice as far. Wow, wow, awesome. So go ahead, have a seat, feeling great. So what happened there, do you think? Why did you go further the second time? Yes. The simple act of visualizing where you want to go. You see, the reason most people don't get what they want is they don't know what they want. So they react to the day. They get up in the morning and they go, okay, let's see what's happening today. Your Epic Life Planner is about planning your week, your month, your quarter, your year, seeing it, visualizing it, and then stepping into it. Also, is it true that sometimes in life when you hit a little bit of discomfort, you hesitate, you stop. You're like, okay, what does this mean? Is it gonna work? Is it gonna work out? Maybe I'll stop here and check. Does that make sense as well? What else? Yes.
I think it's also a really good example of coaching and programming, because the first time the instructions were to go until you feel discomfort and stop.
Yes.
And then you had everybody close their eyes and you took them through an exercise where you coached them to a higher level of achievement. You gave them an expectation
Yes.
of achieving more.
Very
And
nice.
your instructions
That's
would
why he's John Dietz.
John Dietz in the house. Give John Dietz a round of applause. Great job.
your instructions were go as far as you can go.
Yes.
And you told everybody in the room you can go farther. It was great coaching.
Yes. Yes. Very, very good feedback. I love that. I love that. Yes.
For me, if I have a benchmark to go to, it's always easier the second time.
Yes.
I'm working out and they say, it's okay, do as many as you can. My buddy does 11. Now I know, okay, I got to at least get 11. It's easier to get, if I was by myself, you know, when you have a benchmark to get to, I went to 7, it was like, all right, I got to get to at least 8 this time.
Yes. And that's a very good point, actually, because we talked about before, is your mind's job is what? To protect you. And it uses what as its weapon? Right. So basically, we talk about a comfort zone. The mind says, listen, here's your comfort zone. This is what I know you are safe in. Does that make sense? We've experienced you eating Doritos, watching Netflix. Good, we're safe. Nothing's going to happen, right? And we know that when people call you and they ask you to come over for a listing, there's less chance that you're going to be rejected and you're in a better position. So we like those calls, yes? So it tells you, it has that conversation. So when there's a benchmark of 7 or 8, or pardon me, there's a benchmark of 11, but you're on your own, doing your own thing, and you work out and you get to 7 or 8, and your mind goes, this is getting hard, with a little discomfort, you don't want to tear a muscle. You remember you had that old injury, it brings up stuff like that to use, right, to protect you. And so you go, 8's pretty good, and you stop. But then you hang out with somebody, which I like your point, you hang out with somebody that has higher standards, who wants more, who believes that life is meant to be about growing, contribution, being the best version of yourself. And they're saying like, dude, 11's my number. And you're like, oh, all right. Let's go 12, right? And all of a sudden, when you're with that pack, and you're running with that pack, all of a sudden you see it's the Roger Bannister effect. Yes? How many of you know that story? All of a sudden, somebody ran the 4-minute mile, 23 people did it the next year. It's social proof. You will not die doing 11 of those reps. In fact, it'll be good for you. Come on down. So that's why this ecosystem right here is so crucial, right? Give each other permission to succeed. I have a shirt that says, we don't apologize for being awesome. I was wearing it this morning while I was working out, and I was wearing it downstairs at breakfast, and the waitresses came up to me and they go, that's cool, man. You know? And the reason that we have that slogan in our tribe is that we have to remind ourselves that life is about being the best version of yourself. But unfortunately, because of the way we're wired as humans, when you tell me how great you are, I will instantly evaluate it and make sure that, am I being left out? Am I being left behind? Am I unworthy? Does that make sense? By the way, for men, when we meet, we look at each other and we go, can I take him? It's true. It's the mind's way of creating survival strategy. Every time, can I take him? If I come up to a man in an environment that he doesn't know me in an alley like this, my hands behind my back, likelihood is his mind is going, brr, 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 pay attention, get ready. True or true? That's why the first language is body language. But if I walk up like this, hey man, right? It's a little different. So I want to take you on a little journey of finding how we can get the best of ourselves through the Sunday System for Success I've been doing for 15 years that allowed me to sell 100 homes a year and play 100 games of golf, make over $250,000 a year while taking 3 months off a year. How many of you like that combination? Yes? So is it okay if I share with you how I did it in some of these formats? Yes? And the way I like to do it is to get you to do some of the work, because that way it's going to be easier for you to remember. I could give you just the steps, but then you're going to be like, okay, that's just theory. Physical is memorable, And they say that, what we hear, we forget, but what we do, we remember. So we're going to have you pull out your journals that were so beautifully supplied for you by Title Alliance. Now, can we give it up for Title Alliance? So, failing to plan is planning to fail. And there's reasons why we don't plan. I just want to get those out right now. Because when I give you the formula, some of you are not going to do it because you're still benefiting from not doing it. So let's find out in this room what are the reasons why you don't plan 1 week, 1 month, 1 quarter in advance. Who wants to share? What are the reasons that you don't do it? Pardon me?
I'm a planner.
You're a planner? Okay, great. Well, we can also talk about the reasons you do plan. So why do you plan?
I want security.
So you want to be certain of what's happening. So your brain is like, hey, when we plan, we know what's going on, there's less mistakes, there's less surprises, and we can actually get through our life and not be so stressed out. Something like that? Yes? Cool. All right. What else? Okay. And by the way, can we just, when you share, just say your name first, because I don't know all of you.
My name is Nadine. And my dad always had an expression that was, people plan and God laughs.
Yes.
And I have that so embedded in my head. And I will plan in my head, but I will oftentimes not write it down. And that clicked for me as
Wow. That is huge. So that falls into the category of a belief. A belief is a suggestion, often from somebody else, that made sense to you at the time. And it became a conclusion that you live your life through like a pair of glasses or a filter. So she's linked probably, I'm going to guess, here, help me out, she's linked that God laughs because as soon as you make a plan, all of these obstacles come up, so why bother? Is that fair?
partially, yes.
Something like that? What else would you add?
Just that I've always been, I stayed to be a teacher,
Mhm.
so it was always about planning, and I would plan whether I followed that plan or not. So this is a big cycle that I have to break. This is just huge for me right now.
What do you mean you'd plan whether you followed it or not?
I would, Matt, help me here. As a teacher, you had to plan out like every 15 minutes if you're
Yes.
block by block to know what you're doing. And it looked really good on paper, but oftentimes you could not possibly follow that plan.
Okay.
So that is also a program in my brain.
So what meaning did you attach to that, though? So you'd make this plan, it wouldn't work out. What meaning?
Well, I was a successful teacher regardless of whether I followed the plan or not. That's the same thing as working in real estate currently.
Correct. But just for a second, let's unpack that because I think it's appropriate. I'll come to you. Pardon me? Yes. Anybody ever feel it's a waste of time? You plan, it doesn't work out, you have to unplan it. Something pops up. So why bother? It's better for me to just have these kind of things I'm going to do, and I'll fit them in where I can. Is there anybody that kind of subscribes to that? Okay, cool. So I've also worked with people that they make these big elaborate plans, and then they get to that time block to prospect or go to the gym or whatever, and they don't feel like doing it. And then they have guilt associated with, oh, I know I'm supposed to work out, but I really don't feel like it's raining out or whatever. I don't want to get in the car. Plus, the gym equipment isn't ready, blah, 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 whatever, right? I'm tired, I have a headache, whatever. And now you got to deal with the emotion of the guilt. Does that make sense? Or you time block 6 hours because you came from an event like this and you're like, 6 hours a week, that's my new goal. And then you put it in there and all hell breaks loose. Kids get sick, whatever. And then you now have to deal with, you feel like a failure. Instead of CSIing at the end of the week and going, okay, kids got sick, a couple of things came up, I got 3 hours instead of 6, good job, talk to your 8-year-old kid, good job. Next week, I'm gonna shoot for 9 and catch up. It's gonna be a big week. But if I hit that out of the park, how cool will that be? I'll build self-esteem, I will build my business, I'll be driving toward it. Does that make sense? So we start, raise your pain tolerance, your capacity, go from 7 reps to 11, right? So we're looking at putting all these pieces together, if that makes sense. And then all of a sudden you start to see that the person next that was down the hallway that didn't seem as smart as you, they're using these pieces. And that's why they're getting the results. Success doesn't lie. It's like gravity. It's just a formula. And if you're not getting the results you want, you're not following the formula. I've been doing this like for 40 years. It's the same thing. Spoken to thousands of agents. And it's the same reason people get the mediocre results. And it's the same reason people get great results. So we'll unpack it. Yes?
So planning and not planning are the same thing. Because they're a choice.
Yes.
You either choose to plan or you choose not to plan.
Yes.
The next question I ask myself is, when I choose not to plan, what shows up? What are the results I get?
Yes.
And when I choose to plan, what shows up? What are the results I get? And what I've learned is when I choose to plan, the results are much better than when I choose not to plan. So even though there's pain around planning, I plan.
Yes. And that's great to look at it that way because choice empowers you versus I have to plan. Does that make sense? So I really like that. I would add to it, though, that there's this additional payoff of not planning. It's called this adrenaline rush that we get. So what date are we today? 17th. Is there anybody in here who has not done their taxes? How many of you have feel a little bit of pressure right now? Yes? So, and some of you, who here got them done last minute? Who here, well, you guys are all in advance? You all got them done weeks ago? Okay, good. Sorry? Got your return back already. So how did you get yourself to do that? Yeah. And you gave yourself a consequence to not doing it, correct? No? Okay, so it's a must for you. But in making it a must, what's the benefits of doing it? No stress. And we're going to talk about that later in one of the steps, as to how do you get yourself to do something that's important but not urgent before it becomes important and urgent, where the stress goes up and the quality of life goes down. Cool? All right. Excellent. So step number 1 is you gather your materials. So you have your materials in front of you, and we are today what? We are Wednesday? So I want you to start thinking about next week, what you would do next week. So you can turn into your planner and go to next week, physically go to next week, find the dates for next week, and start thinking just for a second about what next week you might have planned. Or you might need to do, want to do, etc. Give you a chance to find the page. So it'll be like what, April 22nd on Monday? So find the page that starts with April 22nd. Got it? While we're waiting for other people to get it, turn to somebody, give them a high five, and say, you're still a badass. All right, so April 22nd, yes? So as you can see, I already have some things written in there. Because as you go through your week, you're going to go, okay, I can't do that this week, but I know I want to do it next week. Does that make sense? So then I just start putting it in on a list over here, the things that I want to accomplish, and I'll drop them in later when I do my Sunday system for success. So the first step is what I do is I do 90 minutes on Sundays. I get my journal, my book, my laptop, my phone, some water. Maybe sometimes I have the football in the background, maybe just music. Sometimes I do it in my gym in the basement, have stuff laid out on the ping pong table. It depends what I want, but I have that 90 minutes for me to plan my week. Now, if I'm doing it December 31st that week, I'm going to look at the entire year as well. I'm going to look at the entire year and see, okay, is there anything, oh, I'm going to go on that trip in September. Oh, yes, I've got family reunion in February. And I can drop in some of the big events that I want to go to. Does that make sense? And then every quarter I do the same thing. Every month I do the same thing. But typically, we're going to talk about just 1 week at a time because I found that the week at a time, it's repeatable. Generally, the weekends kind of show up the same way unless you're on vacation, and generally your Mondays are similar unless you're going on vacation as well. Does that make sense? So now I want you to think about step number 2, which I call celebrate it. And that's when you look back on this week, or what would have been last week, and you go, what did I do that was great? So you can just go, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages back. Five pages back until you get to a page like this, if you will. That's it. You've got it. And on that page, it's not the right page, but on that page, you can write down there 3 things you did either this week or last week that for you are victories. It's just a piece of paper for you to write it on, okay? 3 things where you're like, I was a badass. Any page, really, because you're past that part, okay? So just find a blank page, any page, and I want you to write down just 3 things that to you had an aha, you could write that down, right? Anything that you like, okay, I worked out, I got a listing, whatever you want. Write down 3 things that were a victory for you from either this week or last week, whatever time frame works for you. Go ahead and do that. I'll give you a minute or so. Sometimes people are really tough on themselves, so they have trouble writing things down. I invite you just to write down, hey, maybe you ate healthier 1 meal that week. So I had to make yourself 1 salad. Anything. Just capture something. Be kind to yourself in this moment. You'll develop this as a muscle over time. Anytime you do something for the first time, you're generally not that great at it. So this is possibly a new experience for some of you. But the goal is to develop the habit of capturing your wins. It's kind of like you're your own caddy, right? And if you're done that, then write down 3 things that you could have improved. Could have improved, right? So maybe you forgot to fill the car up with gas on the weekend. It was dirty. You scrambled. You had clients you picked up. The car was a mess. You apologized. You ran out of gas. You got late for an appointment. You're like, oh my God. If I fill the car up on gas at the beginning of the week, I'll be better prepared. It could be as simple as that. If you're done that, then you can go ahead and write down 3 things you're grateful for. Grateful for Alan, a kick-ass broker. I'm grateful for this opportunity to learn. I'm grateful for my heart that beats 100,000 times a day without me asking it. I'm grateful for my eyes. Grateful for my eyes. And then the other 2 spots just keep on going. What worked this week in terms of time planning? You might not have much because or you can work on whatever you do in your own system. I used to prospect Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 6:30 to 8:30 religiously. It was time blocked, and I would tell my kids after dinner going up to do my calls. That would be something that I would say worked for me in my planning. And then what did not work, again, specifically in your area of planning. Saying I'm going to work out at the end of the day if I feel like it often does not work out so well. Stuff just seems to happen around 4 or 5, 6 o'clock. We don't have the same level of energy. We're emotionally caught up in our problems. Good. As you're finishing that up, then go ahead and create a discussion at your table of what you learned, what you noticed, and share with the table. We'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. Go ahead and do that now.
We don't ask ourselves.
How's it going? All right, begin finishing up, begin finishing up. Thank the people at your table, give them a high five and say, you are a badass. Let's try that again. Thank the people at your table, give them a high five and say, you are a badass. All right, let's take a couple of shares. What did you learn? What do you think would be useful about doing this process on a regular basis? What did you notice? Yes. Your name, please?
Nicole Miller. I'm extremely hard on myself, so putting down to paper 3 victories of the week, I was like, oh shit, I did something. That was actually good. Wow, I forgot I did that. Like, that's my biggest challenge is recognizing what I'm actually doing. And then
Yes.
also taking it from like what you haven't done, keeping it into a positive light. I like this a lot, and I usually don't write when people do this time.
Yes.
So I did. I like
Oh, good for you. That's great, Nicole. By the way, how many of you also have that a little bit where you're tough on yourself and it's hard to really acknowledge your efforts because there's always, like my father is always never good enough, right? There's always more you could do. And we can tend to move the goalposts. We achieve something. How many of you also as well would say honestly that you had a goal to achieve something, like maybe get your real estate license initially or buy a car or a house or achieve something, and you said to yourself, when I achieve that, I'm going to be super happy. And then you achieved it, and you're like, I don't know, yes? And then you set another goal, and you said, no, okay, like if I sell 20 homes a year, that's going to be awesome. You sold 20, and you're like, oh, now I need to sell 40, right? And you keep on moving the goalposts, keep on moving the goalposts. And it's a way you motivate yourself. I get that, I'm with you. But it's not a way to live a fulfilling life. Would you agree? Yes. So we need to address that. Because before you know it, your frickin' life is going to be over, and you're going to miss it. And that's bullshit, as far as I'm concerned. Right? It's not worth it. So you got to happily achieve, not achieve to be happy. Yes. Your name, please.
Michael, out of the Coral Springs office. There was a lot of strong takeaways from the first session. I've lived my life every day breaking the cycle, right? Because I think a lot of us have had difficult childhoods, so breaking the cycle for the next generation. And I just shared this earlier with the table. If you pay the price to practice in private, when in public you can perform like a pro. It's huge.
Yes, 100%. And that goes to things like rehearsing and doing role playing, for instance, right? What always amazes me is that doctors and lawyers call their businesses a practice, yet we're professionals and we don't practice. We just kind of wing it. And it's so backwards. If you look at professional athletes, and again, we'll go on the Tiger story, they started early. How many of you heard what time Tiger got up before he, right? How many of you here? His tee-off time was 9:20. He was up at 3:30, preparing for that round, 6 hours of preparation. Football players practice 100 hours for every hour they play. 100 hours. There was a story of Bo Eason. Anybody remember Bo Eason? Small back, but was very, very good. He practiced with Jerry Rice. And in the practice, to piggyback on what Michael was talking about, they would have these receivers lining up on the line, and the quarterback's preparing to, practice the different plays. And the guys would trot out, break for the pass, catch it, throw the ball back, trot around. And these guys were really good receivers. And then Jerry Rice would get on the line. He'd lean in, twitch a little bit, get set, and then he'd go, hut, bam, off the line, boom, cut, go hard, catch the ball, bam, 80 yards into the touchdown zone. And then he would jog all the way back. When would he do this? Every single time. So Bo Eason, who I took a course with, was telling us this story. He goes, I went into the locker room, and he says, I'm thinking like, why would the greatest in the world do this extra running? I don't get it. He's already the best. So he's in the locker room. He goes, Gary, I just got to ask you, like, What's that all about? And he goes, it was fascinating, his response. He goes, Jerry would say, when these hands catch that ball, these legs are programmed to get in the touchdown zone. Every time. When you practice in private, like somebody's actually watching, and if you read Tom Brady's book, he talks about that he practices every play like it's a Super Bowl play. When you raise the standard of who you are, when you make it a must to do your taxes in advance, when you can lock into that power and be that type of a person, you can live an epic life. Small little distinctions. A couple more shares. There was somebody over here, I thought. One? Yes? Name, please? Your name, please? Yes.
I agree with that, and I implement years ago with my kids. And every night, people see that happens in their day. They have physical thinking, and in the morning, people think that we are grateful for. And it changed the way we are looking at even the little things we just take it.
Yes. It's awesome. So here's why that works, just so you understand the science behind it. You hold a thought in your conscious mind. I'm tired, I'm excited, I'm funny, I'm successful. You hold that thought in your mind for a period of time. If you hold it long enough, it gets deposited in your unconscious mind as a file. And it's stored, and you have millions of files in your unconscious mind stored in there from your experiences, yes? That's why when I say to you, are you nervous to tie your shoes? Your brain very quickly scans in the unconscious mind, looks for all the files, says, no, I've tied my shoes thousands of times. I'm not nervous, confident, I can go forward and do that. If I say to you, come up here and teach the rest of the 7 steps to the class, your brain, I don't even know what they are. That'll be difficult for me, and you don't have any files, so you'll develop a story probably called, no, but hold on a second, Rock, I don't know, called your brain protecting you. How many of you follow? Yes. So it's really important how you hold your thoughts because they create stored files in your mind, in your unconscious, and they become your identity. So what you're doing with your kids is you're storing files consciously. That's why we have you do the gratitude, right? When you're grateful, you can't be pissed off. Oprah said that you cannot attract more into your life until you appreciate what you already have in your life. But most of us are looking at what we don't have. I don't have enough listings. I don't have enough sales. I don't have enough time. I'm tired. I got in the car. There wasn't enough gas. Blah, 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 blah. And we are doing what Brené Brown calls the I am not enough speech. All freaking day long. And if that's not enough, then you start to go things like, yeah, well, I'm just like, I got too many wrinkles on my face now, and I don't have, and you go the other way. But we tend to look at a lot of the things aren't the way we want, and what you focus on expands. Yes. So we want to focus on appreciation. We want to focus on the things we're doing well, and honor ourselves. You want to take care of that 8-year-old girl in you. Are you a mom? Yeah. Do you encourage your kids? You remind them of the good stuff they do? Now it's time for you to do it for you. And it won't demotivate you. It'll just make you feel better. Because the negative parts like gravity, it'll happen whether you ask for it or not. It'll happen automatically. So we need to counteract that and deposit some new files. Cool or cool? Cool. Give somebody a high five and say that was super cool. All right, you guys are doing awesome. On to step number 3. So in step number 3, what I normally do is I take a blank piece of paper. You don't have it, but I take a blank piece of paper just because I'd like to do mind mapping. Anybody know what mind mapping is? So mind mapping is when you just draw a circle, yes? And then you have these little lines that come out of the circle. I draw 8 of them because I have 8 gardens in my life. You'll see that later, or you can actually see it on that same page if you stayed on that page, the gardens of your life. Okay? There are 8 areas on that page I suggested you go to, the gardens of your life. Okay? You got them. Most of you are on that page. The gardens of your life. Right there. Okay? And I use those as activators for me to capture the future. But before we do that, what I want to invite you to do is I want you to imagine all the things that you have on last week's agenda, your agenda book, and say, what did I not complete? What do I need to carry forward? For 3 of you in the room here, it's your taxes. Okay? The rest of you, you check those off, which is awesome. So you're going to take the past and you're going to carry it forward. You're going to do what? Thank you. So this is the way I do it, is I highlight in yellow everything that was on my agenda as being completed. And if there isn't anything that is completed, it's really easy for me to look there and go, oh yeah, I never made it to that doctor's appointment because the doctor was busy, or I canceled it, or whatever, the flight was delayed, I couldn't make it. So I put it forward to the next week. Does that make sense? So how many of you would think that if you were to purge the past, and when people start this, by the way, they tell me, yeah, but Rock, I start to think about things 3 months, 6 months ago I was supposed to do, like clean up my garage, or do my will, or buy my tuxedo for my friend's wedding that's coming up now in 3 weeks. I was supposed to do it 3 months ago. So you then get overwhelmed because they start dropping all this stuff down. They're like, oh my God, Rock, there's just so much. So if that happens to you, don't freak out. You'll get through it because you're going to purge, yes? But could you also imagine that if you did this every week, that your mind would start to feel more confident that you're kind of on track? Does that make sense? There would be less things lingering. You'd feel more confident, more free. And that's what's going to happen. The first time might be a little intense. So I want you to just take a moment and choose any paper. You have some notepads. You could use the notepads. And just think about, shoot for maybe 5 things that you did not complete last week that you'd like to complete in the upcoming week. 5 things. Try to capture 5 things that you'd like to complete. Bring them forward. Go ahead and jot those down. Successful people do things quickly, so do it quickly. 5 things you did not complete last week. You did not complete. You didn't finish reading a book. You didn't go to the yoga class. You didn't get the car washed, whatever. You guys are doing awesome. And then you have your 8 gardens. And if you look at your 8 gardens, I want you to start thinking about, what do I want to achieve, experience, create, do, have in any of those gardens? So for instance, with your health and vitality, what is something you'd like to do next week for your health and vitality? Go to the gym. Once, twice, 3 times? Start with once, maybe? Yeah, so jot that down. So you write that on that blank piece of paper. You just write, go to the gym once. Pop it down. What else could you do for your health and vitality? What else? Eat better. Awesome. So jot that down. What else could you do for your health and vitality? Cook every night instead of eating out. Nice. So cook better. Jot that down. What else could you do for your health and vitality? Go to bed early. I love it. Jot that down. It's been proven that you will get 40% better results just by looking at your goals because your mind will now be activated to make them happy. You don't even have to do anything. You just have to look at them on the paper, and your mind is going to get busy. It's going to go, yo, dude, time to get to bed early. You wrote that down. How about that delicious meal you're going to make? Stop ordering out. Yes or yes? See how easy this is? Let's look at, say, career as an example. What could you do there? What could you do this next week in your career?
Commit to 20 contacts a day.
Yes, I love it. Commit to 20 contacts a day. Jot it down. This is the capture stage, by the way. This is a data dump on one piece of paper. You're just dropping it in. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Doesn't mean it has to happen. Doesn't mean it's going to happen that week. You're just in a brainstorming mode. Ideally, what could I create, do, be, have, experience, feel, touch, meet? What else in your career? Yes? Start learning command? Oh, is that a program?
Work on the tech pieces that we're getting.
Okay.
To
So,
enter into our database.
great. Now, by the way, we've all learned specific goals, right? You need to be specific. So if it's going to be eat healthier, we want to narrow that down to cook 3 healthy meals this week, as an example, right? So it's quantifiable, measurable, so you can achieve it. Spend 1 hour learning the new technology. Try to get more specific if you can. It's okay if you're general to start with, but you'll want to get more specific. What else? What else? Career-wise, what else? Will move the needle, get you closer to your goals. What else? Lead generation. What does that look like? Yes. Awesome. So maybe just more visualization. More zeros. Beautiful. What about maybe starting to learn about some investments that you could make? Maybe learning how to buy wholesale or flip properties. Anybody in here do Airbnb? Do you own them? Do you rent them?
I own one and purchasing a second.
Okay. And are you?
No idea how amazing it's going to be.
Yes. And what kind of money are you making?
I bought it in September.
Yep.
The mortgage I have on it is $7,200, and I believe March was $4,900,
Wow.
and it's progressing. I didn't realize the season was up there was going to be the way that it is,
Right.
and I'm going to buy another one in the same neighborhood.
So very interesting, very good, by the way. Congratulations.
Jen from Fort Lauderdale.
So there's 3 ways you can make money with Airbnb. You can purchase the property and furnish it and do that. You can also lease a property if you don't have the money, for those of you that may not be in that situation yet. And if you're thinking, well, how do I lease a property? Who's going to lease a property? Don't worry, we have the scripts for you. Don't get stuck in the how. Just decide, rule number 10, make it happen no matter what. Yes? And you can also, I have a friend of mine that teaches a course that you can go to a seller who owns a property and you know they're not utilizing it all the time, and you can say to them, I'll manage the property for you. You have it furnished. I'll guide you on how to fix it up. You'll still own the property. You'll make the money, but I'll charge you 20% or 15 or 25, depending on the detail, as a management fee just to run the Airbnb site. Does that make sense? And then you can start to create some passive income on the side. So I learned how to do it last year, and I have a property up in Montreal. It was near a ski resort, and I was able to rent it out and make $168,000 while I was away. I lived in that house. I bought it for $1 million. I lived in that house for free for an entire year.
This one's already paid for the entire year itself. Everything from the end of April on.
So maybe it's worth it to spend an hour a week looking at alternative ways to make money. Does that make sense? So does that start to excite anybody? Because now you have intention, you have purpose. And by the way, rather than be a distraction to real estate, what I've found is that I end up meeting more people, and people tend to buy real estate, yes? So I've now started to Airbnb a place I have here in Phoenix, and I already have 2 referrals into agents in Phoenix, where I live, because the people that came down that were on holidays love it so much they're thinking of moving. Does that make sense? So you're going to now start to meet other people. It's going to be a new way for some of you that don't like to cold call or build businesses, by prospecting. You now have creating another way for you to meet people that are in that area. Cool or cool? So the idea is to give you all these different ways you can expand your mind, create more revenue, have more leads coming in, enjoy your life more, be healthier, more energized, more time, and lead the epic life that you deserve to live. But if you never sit down at this part and start planting those seeds and saying, what do I want to create in my career, then you might never have that conversation. And if we didn't hear about somebody who's already having success with Airbnb, we don't have the Roger Bannister effect. And we're like, okay, well, I don't know how to do that. And when the brain doesn't know how to do it, it generally takes no action. Make sense? So we want to stack and pack those things. So what you do at this stage, and this is the part that takes most of the time, step number 3, is you purge the past, bring it forward, drop it on a piece of paper. You do what? All together. Awesome. Then you look at the future, and you go, what do I want to create, experience, do, have, meet? And you now visualize and imagine, and you drop it on a piece of paper. I'd like to have my first Airbnb. Okay, well, there's some steps before getting it. I need to learn, what's your name again? Jen. So I'm going to go over and talk to Jen, find out how she did it. Would you share with people anything? Most people that are successful doing something, they're happy to share their wisdom, yes? You just have to have that 5 or 10 seconds of courage to ask and step into it. And then we can all win in here and work together. Cool? So now that you have all of that, we go to the next step. And we start to chunk it. Now, maybe you've seen this before. This is a Stephen Covey time box matrix, yes? So you're familiar with it probably. So let's talk about it together. What box do you spend most of your time in? No, do you currently? 3? Lots of interruptions. Okay. Why would you spend time in number 4? It's not important and it's not urgent. Why would you think think psychology-wise? Yes, to check out. Probably what happened, and you're 100% right, is you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you can't solve a problem, something's come at you, and you're like, oh my God. And all of a sudden, a YouTube video, it's funny, looks good, social media, surf that, chit-chat with somebody, watch something. Does that make sense? And usually, we do that when we're not on purpose. So if we haven't designed our week, we're kind of like, you know what? I'm bored, I'm tired, I'm stressed. I'm going to go over here and have this feel good in the moment. But when we're the day before a vacation, how many of you are really purposeful? Right? You're focused. This has to happen. Step out of the way. I'm coming through. Right? Pina colada's waiting for me tomorrow in Mexico. You're focused. You're intentional. We want to bring that to your everyday life. Make that your must, your standard. Right? It's possible. Where do you want to spend most of your time? Yes. Number 2. Why in number 2? Yes, 100% makes everything else easier, and you're less stressed in that area. Do your taxes 2 months in advance, you're less stressed. Accountants are more available. You're not running across town last minute like everybody else. Not forced to go through traffic maybe at a time to get somewhere because that's your only choice. Wasting time. Does that make sense? So when you plan in advance, you can do your preparation, your training, your exercise, your health. For instance, what I used to do when I was a real estate agent is I would make eight salads on Sunday afternoon. And I would cook fish and chicken, and I put them all in Tupperwares in the fridge. And I woke up in the morning. I had my gym outfits already ready for the week. I had my outfits ready for the week. And I grabbed my lunches, my outfits, everything went in the car that I needed. And then off I went. My car was filled up with gas on Sundays because I had the time to do it. And I was loaded and ready to go. Does that make sense? And then I felt really prepared and confident that I could take on the week and I could be productive. I felt like I had an edge on people because I knew most people weren't doing it. And I would hear people, oh my God, I got to go to an appointment. It's raining out. I have no gas in the car on Monday afternoon. I'm like, dude, it was sunny yesterday. I filled up the car with gas. I'm good, you know? And then you waste so much energy being pissed off and stressed out at things that you could control, but that you think that you can't because you don't plan. And I know it sounds so simplistic. You're probably like, Brock, tell me something like that's going to blow my mind and lightning bolts out of my ass, right? But the thing is that successful people, they actually love the details. This kind of shit excites people that are successful. People that are struggling, they look at this and they go, yeah, I know that already. I know that already are the three most dangerous words in the English language. It closes your mind and it causes you to not take action. One of my greatest qualities that my coaches and mentors tell me is my level of curiosity. I pay attention. I consider myself a great student. Right? I'm taking golfing lessons now, and I'm like, I'm paying attention to everything. The grip, my stance, the angles, the wind, everything. I get excited about it. And by the way, when you're excited and curious, are you really, really old or you tend to be younger? How many of you like young energy? You want to be alive and free, yes? So you need to be curious. You need to recognize and exercise that muscle and ask questions and lean into stuff, right? So in this section here, you kind of take everything you've chunked down on your document and you go, okay, where do I place it? And then you start to get ready to put all of the important things like your exercise and your meal prep and things like that and get as many into that not urgent, important box before they become urgent and important. So for instance, let's say you're planning on going on a trip and your passport needs to be renewed. You notice that while you're doing you're dropping everything down and you're like, I don't have to do it this week. I'm not leaving for a month. But you drop it in and you say, let me get it started this week so that it doesn't come up later. How many of you follow me? Yes? And now all of a sudden you start to look out months in advance and you're like, my passport's done. I'm good, right? And then you start to pack your bag for your trip 4 or 5 days in advance and you're not stressed out. And you go to the pharmacy to get something, sunblock. Not going to get it down there when it's 3 times the price. And now you start to save money and you become better at managing your life. How many of you follow me? And when instead of ordering out last minute, there's going to be multiple rewards for that. Ordering out food costs more money. True or true? It's usually not as what? Correct. And if you continually get your own food and eat the way you want, you're actually going to change your energy levels. Does that make sense? So there's kind of like these multiple benefits. So it's really important you look at this. And by the way, you may have a lot of stuff that is still there. I just moved into a house. And when I moved into the house, I developed some back spasms. And I couldn't really walk for about 2.5 weeks. And I was receiving furniture. And I had all kinds of stuff going on. And it felt like I was in the important and urgent box all the time. I was just trying to physically move around. And the doorbell would ring while I was on the phone. And it would be UPS delivering a couch or whatever it was. And I was just like, okay, hold on a second. Hey, hold on a second. And I was like constantly under fire. There will be seasons you go through that. Recognize that. Sometimes you will be like, just know you'll get through it. Does that make sense? But if you never get to that point where you can do some things in advance, like the passport example, they'll always bleed over and you'll live in that what I call the red zone, where you're addicted to adrenaline. And by the way, some of you like that. You know why? Because you perform better. True or true? And there's a reason. There's a scientific reason behind it. In a book called The Rise of Superman, they talk about the effect of the chemicals that are created when we feel that things are dire. So when you're base jumping, for instance, one of the reasons people are adrenaline junkies is that the mind and body can create chemicals like norepinephrine, anandamide, serotonin, when it feels that it needs to expand your capacity to function. Athletes like Michael Jordan like the ball in the last moment because he knows that he gets access to these chemicals and hormones in his body and he gets a high from it. Yes? You're doing the same thing. The problem is you're not doing it consciously. You're letting the outside world dictate. You got to pay your bills now. You got to get the car fixed now. You got to get your passport done now. You got to drive across town and get this thing done now. And you're like, get out of the way. I am important. Yes or yes? But I'm sorry to bring you this news. It's false importance. Because if you had frickin' planned, you would not have to push people aside to bring a document across town that you could have easily done had you planned it. Yes or yes? It's a payoff. You're addicted to it. So you're going to have to break that pattern. And that's going to take some work. Some of you crammed for exams in college. Some of you studied around the clock and you like the high of 14 coffees and 17 Red Bulls and pushing through. You like it. I like it too. I like being on and dialed in. But what if you could manufacture it yourself? What if you could get yourself to make something super important now, like you did with your taxes, before they're desperate, and become excited about them and create those chemicals in your body, those hormones, and be on point? You go, I've got 1 hour to do my taxes. Let's go, baby. When you show up in the gym, you're like, I'm not going to work out for an hour today. I'm going to give myself 40 minutes, but they're 40 purposeful on minutes. I put my phone on airplane, and I'm present. Let's go. Does that make sense? You start to save 20 minutes here, half an hour there. Parkinson's law. If you're given a week to do something, you'll take a week to do it. If you're given 7 days to do that market analysis because you're only going to go next Monday, it's likely you'll do it last moment, or you'll do an hour here or half an hour there, but you won't be purposeful and intentional, or as you could be. And I know I'm speaking in generalities. Many of us in this room, we have many moments when we're purposeful, intentional, and on point. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. You're successful entrepreneurs. I'm talking about the hours when you're not. Does that make sense? I don't want some of you going like, piss off, Rock. I'm a badass. All right. So now's the fun part for me is now that you've got all this focus and you've got all your past and future on one page, you start to schedule it. And you go, okay, what do we want to do this week? So for instance, this week I'm here today and I'm speaking in Tampa tomorrow, and then I fly back to Phoenix, and I'm going to go golfing Friday morning, and then I'm going to go out with my lady in the afternoon, and we're going to go to dinner and dancing Friday night, and then on the weekend we're going to spend some time on Saturday, and on Sunday I fly to Cleveland. And so I know my schedule, yes? And I've planned out the things that I want to do. I'm excited about going golfing at 6:30. I have my tea time already at 6:30 on Friday. I'm excited about going to dinner and dancing at night, right? So when you have those things in place, you can create what's called a compelling future, and then there's no room. If it's not in your schedule, it doesn't what? It's a bold law, yes? So put in what you want. It's your life. I like dancing. I like music. So I put it in there. Put in what you like. It also includes me getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and doing like an hour of scales on my piano. Right? Because I have a goal. I have a vision for what I want to do. I want to be able to play music with people I love in a room and be connected. And I believe that it's good for my brain, good for my soul. I also play the drums. But I decided to shift. So that all came out of me sitting down, just like you guys did here for a little while, and go, what do I want to create? What do I want to experience? What do I have? Start to visualize. I bought a new house, and I thought, that's a good place for a piano, so I bought a piano. Then I started to tinkle on it, and I go, that sounds pretty cool. Why don't I learn how to play? And now you can look up on YouTube, and there's lessons everywhere. It's the easiest thing in the world, right? And I started to say, I love that. Then I made a commitment to myself to practice every day that I'm home. Before you know it, I'll be playing multiple songs. Does that make sense? So, schedule what's important. Urgent represents an opportunity. Say yes to the opportunity. Schedule self-care time. What does that mean? Me time. What would be me time? Yes. Exactly. Getting a massage. Right? You time. Cooking some food for the week. Listening to music. Watching a movie. Whatever you want. Now, a lot of times people are like, okay, things are going to happen out of my control. What do I do with that? You know, you get a flat tire. Yesterday, our flight was delayed by 3 hours. We got in this morning around 3 o'clock. You know, sometimes it pushes and messes up your whole schedule. So jot this down. He who is most flexible wins. And I want you to think about that, not just from a phrase, but from a mindset of there's always a way. So flight was supposed to leave at 4:40 yesterday. Get a notice it's delayed. Jim, Lindsay, and I are traveling together, and Lindsay sends us a message. She goes, why don't we all meet for dinner? And I'm like, yeah, I had the time anyway. I would get here at whatever, 10 o'clock. Instead, we got here 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was. And we had a great dinner. And we worked on our vision and our plans and our goals and things that we can do. So it's the flexibility is looking for the gift within the shift that the world's offered you. It's not going like, okay, I'll make it work. No, it's going like, how do I make it work? What's beautiful about this? What's great about this? Does that make sense? Yes.
So, I think somebody alluded to it. There was like the National Keller Williams Mastermind was in town yesterday and today.
Okay.
And the new CEO said, he actually said, the law, what we think is Darwin's law, which is only the strong shall survive, it's not actually that. It's
He was most willing to adapt.
he's willing to think. And so that was his big thing.
Right.
Then he did the whole, Blockbuster. Netflix didn't kill Blockbuster. Blockbuster killed Blockbuster.
Yeah.
By not being
100%. Yeah, and that's a great point. And I'll give you a specific example. For me, when I was 40 years old, I lost all my hair to a disease called alopecia. And initially people were saying to me, like, dude, are you dying? Do you have cancer? What's the matter with you? Are you getting chemo? And that created, remember that when people ask you questions or you ask questions of yourself, you create doubt, right? And your brain answers them. So I'm like, do I have cancer? Am I dying? Like, what's going on? But I have been for years asking myself this question. And I often, like, people, have you ever heard people say, yeah, well, just be positive? You ever heard people have a positive attitude? And you're like, yeah, well, it's not a time to be positive, right? A few choice words that begin with F. And, like, frankly. So what I've learned in life is that if you really want to create change, you got to give people tools. So it's like if then. If this happens, respond like that. And I'll use sports as an analogy. Tom Brady, he has one of his receivers go down. He doesn't go, I'm screwed. He goes, this is an opportunity for me to be a hero. Yes? How do I use the resources that are there? And I want to invite all of you to do the same thing. So I use this question, WGAT. What's great about this? So I'm like, what's great about me losing all my hair? When I found out that it was just an autoimmune disease called alopecia and it wasn't killing me, I'm like, what's great about this? I'll never have a bad hair day again in my life. Started to feel a little bit better. And I started to then brainstorm, right? Just like you guys did in stage 3, I started to imagine what could be great about this. What else could be great? And I said, well, I don't have to spend money on shampoo. I don't have to spend money on haircuts. I'm going to save all that money, which is cool. I don't have to spend time in the shower, less time in the shower. It's more time for me to be productive and create things. I'm like, alopecia, baby. And then what you look for, you find. And I have a Greek friend who's hairy all over and he gets waxing ripped off, right? And alopecia, I mean, I've lost all the hair on my body, right? So I don't have to shave my chest or do all that stuff that people do. I don't have to wax, nothing. I have no eyebrows, I have no eyelashes, right? So I started to go, oh, no ripping off for me. And then my Greek friends, he's like, dude, I want that alopecia thing you got, right? So you can decide to MacGyver it, as I call, is look at it and you have a decision to make in your life. You can't change it. You got a flat tire, you can't change it, right? You lose alopecia, maybe you could get it back. I don't really want my hair back. I like it the way I am. but you can't change a situation, then I say celebrate it. Look for what's available and make it work. And by the way, as parents, you guys do this all the time. True or true? Your kid gets sick and you don't have the right stuff. You find a way, you knock on the neighbor's door, you come in freaking incredibly resourceful. Yes or yes? You're like, excuse me, my kid's throwing up, very sick. I mean, you walk right into their kitchen. And yes, this is what I need. Thank you very much. And you don't give a shit, do you? True or true? You are going to make it happen. You're going to rule number 10 it. Imagine living your life like that. People will respect it too. They're like, yeah, come on in, man. Like, what else do you need? He with the most certainty wins. Somebody had a question over here, a comment.
It was just a comment on mindset switching, not why is this happening to me, why is it happening to me.
Exactly. Does that make sense? And by the way, it's a muscle. Because the brain is always going to fight you. You got a flat tire. First thing it's not going to go, oh, that's, hey, awesome, Rock, you got a flat tire. Way to go, buddy. Your brain is not going to offer that for you. Right? But I did get a flat tire once, and I was really pissed off, and I got upset because I had my tuxedo on. I was on my way to a Christmas party. And I asked that question, and I just thought, you know what? I've got a spare tire. It's on the right side of the highway. I'm not going to get hit by a truck on that side. And you can start to feel better, yes? So may I offer to you that when things go sideways, backwards, ask yourself what's great about this. And if your brain doesn't offer you an answer, you say, what could be great about this? Because your brain will answer that one. Sometimes I go, there's nothing great about a flat tire, losing the deal, my spouse leaving me, cheating on me, whatever it is. Me getting alopecia or cancer, or my kid getting a broken arm. There's nothing great about that, Rock. Like, you're going to go, like, Rock, no, not in this case, dude. What could be great about it? You know, when I was playing golf, I injured my shoulder, and I was forced. I couldn't stretch quite as much. I had to slow down my swing. And guess what happened? Hit it further and straighter. First, I was pissed because I couldn't play the way I wanted to. But then I saw the gift. So there's a gift. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you. But it's a muscle, I'm telling you. It's a muscle. Because the victim voice is very strong in our culture. Very strong. Plus, it requires work. Changing a flat tire. You don't generally want to do that in a tuxedo when it's snowing out. So you have to overcome that because your brain, while you're doing it, so you're like, I was sweating in my tuxedo on my way to a Christmas party. I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome, Rock. No, my brain was not saying that. I had to find a way. So I said to my wife, turn the music up. I'm going to enjoy changing this flat tire. I'm going to have a story to tell people. Yes?
Rock, this makes sense to everybody in here. Yes or yes? Yeah. And when we leave,
Yes.
50% of us at least will revert back to who we were and the way we handled things. Like, there is nothing good about that. I can't find anything good in that. So can you give us something to work on, something to do, so when that happens, we go, no, and ask that question?
Yeah, so there are little tricks. Like sometimes what you could do is simple as you have an elastic band on your wrist. And every time you catch yourself, because awareness is the first step to change. So often you will go back to remember the thousands of files in your unconscious mind. So if your behavior is when something goes negative, maybe you go, oh shoot, and you light up a cigarette. Or maybe you say something else, right? Or you slump your shoulders. I was literally at the airport the other day, and they announced that the flight would be delayed, and everybody slumped shoulders and whined, et cetera. And I stood up and I went, yes! Who am I going to meet? Because I forced myself physically to answer your question, because physical is memorable, so you want to break your pattern. If you study NLP or Tony Robbins, it's all about breaking the pattern, right? And culturally, it's not cool to break the pattern. So me standing up and going, yes! People look at me and go, who's this quack, right? But I understand what works for me, and what I'm interested in is me being successful, not me in pleasing other people. Do you follow? I'll be the guy that will be you doing yoga in the corner at the airport. I'm the guy that pumps gas in his car and does squats at the same time, right? So I'm looking for ways to get the edge on life so that so for me, exercise is non-negotiable. It will happen. It won't be like I'm busy that week or I'm traveling or this or that. That's a bullshit story to me. I will make it happen, no matter what. That make sense? So when you seek for those little advantages, but the key is to break your pattern. The other thing that's really important is to be around other people that won't let you do that, right? So I'm part of a tribe that I've started, a tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous people that choose to lead epic lives. And we meet once a week, a little group of us, and we're part of a group on Facebook. So we get used to hearing other people turning stories around, so we get caught up in that Roger Bannister kind of effect. We're like, well, if they're turning that story around, then I want to turn mine around too.
Yeah, so what you just said was tremendous. It's who you surround yourself with. You know, I'm fortunate enough to be on the ALC, and you've got like-minded people. Every morning I'm in the scripts with John and group coaching, and you've got like-minded people. I was away snowboarding, and I got off on like the third day of snowboarding, and I felt something like something's in my boot. What's going on? When I took off my uninstructor boards, and I realized like the sole of my boot was coming off. So I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so no matter what I have, like, I'm not running out to spend, right? So I get back to the room. It was the end of the day, and I try to glue this. I've done everything I know to make this boot stay together. It won't. And I'm like, yes. Because I have the old boots with the giant laces, and you work yourself into a sweat, and you're out of breath by the time you get these things strapped on. And they got the new ones with the dial and the cord, and it's just like, but I need an excuse, and like, I did everything I could. And now, this happened to me or for me. It happened for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I showed it to my kid, but I get that from our market center, from the lessons that we learn every morning with John. So
That's awesome.
it's fantastic.
That's great, yeah. You are who you surround yourself with, and environment is stronger than willpower. We have this desire to connect that's so strong that you will become the people you're with. Yes?
Yeah, if I could just add something to that. You're right, we are who we surround ourselves with, and that works to the opposite as well. Matter of fact, it works better to the opposite, because we'll accept a negative story or negative outcome or negative pattern or habit quicker than we will a positive one. Affirmations work in both directions. They work quicker in the negative direction. We're
Yeah.
programmed to accept that.
Yeah, I agree. And that's just the mind, right? So we talked about before. The mind wants you to be protected, and it uses negativity and fear to keep you there. So now you're going to get it scheduled. You're going to drop it into your agenda. You're going to work with all the things that are important. And I'm going to suggest, by the way, that you schedule it backwards. So let's pretend that we're Sunday today. I'm going to suggest that you go, next Sunday, what am I going to do? Next Saturday, what am I going to do? Next Friday, what am I going to do? And the reason is, from my experience, is sometimes what happened is I did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. My kids ran in, the phone rang, some catastrophe happened, and then I stopped the planning. And then I got to Wednesday, and I was screwed for the rest of the week. If you force yourself to start with Sunday, even if you get interrupted when you're at Wednesday, your brain is going to go, I don't know what's happening tomorrow. I got to get back to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that just came from years of trial and error, so it's a little sneaky trainer trick, but I would encourage you to do that. Say that again?
Yeah.
So when you're planning your Sunday system for success, the tendency would be, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow, Monday? What am I going to do on Tuesday? I'm going to suggest look 7 days away and say, next Sunday, what am I going to do? I'm going to do an open house. I'm going to play golf in the morning. Good. And lock down in your schedule Sunday. Then do Saturday. Then do Friday. Kids run in. You get interrupted. Maybe you're doing your Sunday system for success at an open house like I used to do. And somebody comes in and you get whipped up and you're writing up an offer and you only got to Friday. Then I get home that night and I complete it because I don't know what's happening on Monday. The opposite was true. Initially, I would start with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then somebody would come in, write up an offer. I get completely engrossed in that. And I felt safe to start my week for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Right? Exactly. Right. Got it? Then I would get to Wednesday and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't plan the rest of my week. Try to make an appointment. I can't. And then I end up having a face plant. So I reversed engineer it. Does that make more sense now?
Yes.
And you leave room for the oh shit.
Yeah. And when you do your CSI every week, when you look back and you go, what worked, what didn't work, you're going to go, I should not be doing 19 hours of prospecting. I run out of gas. That's too much. It's too intense for me. I'm going to do 3 and then work out in the gym, have a good meal, and then do another 2, and then I'm going to do some other stuff. You start to get to know yourself better. Make sense? All right, so after you've scheduled it, this is, now I'm going to do the next 2, and we're going to be finish that, and I'll wrap up with a couple of things for you. But the next 2 are, I think, what most people don't think of when they're planning. So hopefully they're going to be bonuses for you. So resourcing it simply means once you've put all those things into your schedule, you go, what would I need? And I want you to think again like your 8-year-old child. So if you're going to be doing something next Sunday, or you're going to be going on an appointment, a listing presentation, whatever you're going to be doing, what do you need? Do you need a market analysis? Do you need a contract? Do you need a pen, paper, briefcase, laptop, battery chargers, good suit? What do you need? Do you need a snack in your car? Would it be good to have some extra snacks in your car, some meals prepped, your clothes chosen out before, a bottle of wine because you're going to go see friends on Thursday night. You can pick it up earlier in the week. So you start to think of all the stuff that supports those events. Does that make sense? If you had a kid that you're getting ready for their week at school and you know they got a science project on Thursday and you need glue and you need popsicle sticks and you need this stuff, you're not going to wait until 5 minutes before the science project to run to the dollar store to get all that stuff. You're going to plan in advance so your kid's not embarrassed and humiliated and can't function. So think of it in the same terms for yourself. Yes?
Along those lines, I have clients always made when I go to their home, they have 3 kids that are all under 6, and they're very organized. And whenever I go in their pantry to pull something out or whatever, their house, it just has this sense of abundance. And I realize it's the planning and the preparedness for the kids.
Yes.
They're never going without anything that they need. And it's a whole different mindset to
Yes.
do that well planned and have everything in place.
Yes. How many of you, by the way, are the type of people that you'll go to, like to Costco or something like that, and you'll make sure you have enough, I don't know, paper towel or toilet paper for maybe a couple of months down the road? Yes? And it kind of feels good, right? And then sometimes you're with people, you know, and it's like, oh my God, there's no toilet paper here, use a paper towel. And you're just like, "Geez, that's what happened last week, dude, what's up?" You know? So it really comes down to that visualization time on Sundays when you start thinking, what might I need? What could I need? And you start to rack your brain in all gardens of your life, and then your brain will be miraculously offer things for you. This would be a good time to go to Costco. I have the time and spend $600 and just load up the house with all this stuff that I will use one day, but let's just get it out of the way. And then it makes, by the way, your shopping during the week easier because you don't have to now stuff the car with all those kind of cleaning products and stuff because you can get those in advance. Does that make sense? So when I do the shopping during the week, then it's usually just fruits and veggies. It's really easy. So there's all these little kind of nuances, but that's a great point. Thank you for bringing it up. So now you resource everything. And now you're like, okay, I'm ready to go. I got all the stuff that I need. And you maybe make a list that you might have to stop somewhere to get. Like for me, I need some new golf balls and a new golf glove. When I'm playing a game on Friday, okay, I jot it down on my to-do list, and I know when I go to the store, I go get the dry cleaning, I fill up the car with gas, I get it cleaned, I pick up the golf balls, get the golf glove, get a bottle of wine, we go out with friends on Thursday, and now I chunk that together, I'm more efficient. Make sense? All right, turn to somebody, give him a high five, and say he's still making sense. All right, we're almost there, almost there. And then the last one is about your imagination and emotionalizing it. It's about visualizing. It's about thinking about what you want to create and experience. So you go in a listing presentation and you're going to go, how do I want to experience it emotionally? How do I want to interact with those people? Do I want to be happy? Do I want to be focused? Do I want to be decision-oriented? Do I want to be professional? Do I want to be upbeat? When I go to that yoga class, am I going to play full out and hold every position as long as I can, or am I going to give in to that level 7 instead of go to level 11? And you set an intention emotionally for how you're going to live your week. And that's when you start to bring more of you to the week. And you're going to see that 2 hours time block for for lead generation is not now just hyperbole. It's not just a block in your calendar where you get to sip your tea in your office with nobody bothering you. It's actually you have an intention to contact 20 people an hour, 40 people. You know your numbers, and it means that you're going to make $3,200 in those 2 hours. Does that make sense? And when you can quantify it like that, because all successful people know their numbers, then you'll get excited about it. What my experience with agents that struggle is that they do some lead gen, and then they're like, oh, I called for 2 hours, but nothing worked. So for me, I knew that if I contacted 100 people, I would get 3 appointments, I'd list 2, and I'd sell 1 as an example, and it was worth X dollars. So every call was worth $40. I knew that. So if I could squeeze in 6 more calls in between 2 appointments when I had that time, make $240, I'm like, yes, because I knew my numbers. Yes? If you don't know your numbers, you will not be motivated to make the calls. So know your numbers. Set an intention. Be a badass. So you saw the gardens. We talked about them. Use them as a cheat sheet to set your intentions for the week. This sheet here is the one sheet. I'm not going to go over it today, but it's a document that I use. It's like the dashboard of my life. It's not just the 8 gardens, but it's the financials of my life, and I update it every 90 days. If you're part of our mastermind, we show you how to do that. Setting goals. This is your process for setting goals. It's in your journal. It's in your planner. And it's a raft, and it basically just gives you the elements of setting a goal. Know your outcome. What is the desired result? Stack and pack the reasons. You know that probably from BOLD. If you've taken BOLD, it's not, you got to know your why. The action steps will show up. The feedback is it working or not? How do I adjust? And then preset something as a celebration. This is just an example of bucket list adventures I've been on that can create some motivation for yourself by being in different cool places. You should have your list like I have my list. So 6 years ago, I met, some of you may know David Osborne. So I met David Osborne at an event. I was looking, so I sold my company for $4 million to an agent in my office, and she defaulted on the payments and owed me $2.6 million and went bankrupt. And I negotiated with her and took the office back, the physical space back, and got only $800,000. So I lost $1.8 million. And you talk a little bit about being thrifty with your money, or it's difficult for you to let go or spend. There's 4 different kinds of money personalities we all have. You may be a saver. Probably not a money monk, but I think would be a saver. I'm a saver also. But we all have a blueprint. You have a zone you're comfortable with in money, yes? Yes. So if you make 50 to 100, or you make 100 to 130, but you always find a way to fit into that zone. We all have it, whatever it is. You start off the year hard, you slow down. You start off the year slow, you speed up at the end. Does that make sense? But you also have a net worth that you're comfortable with. I had a net worth that I was comfortable with, and when my net worth went down $1.8 million, I was pissed. So that means that when you're pissed, you activate yourself to take action. So what I did was I looked at my opportunities, and I decided that it would be cool to open up a Keller Williams. They didn't have them in Canada, or in that part of Canada, in Quebec. So I was checking that out, met David Osborne, who was doing a talk to all the OPs in Canada. I liked him. And when I like somebody, I go up to them and I basically say, look, I want to hang out with you. And if they don't think I'm cool, then I pay them money, and they usually say yes. Right? There's always a way to get the wisdom out of people. So $100,000 I gave Tony Robbins to hire him as a coach for me personally. $2,000 for... So David thought I was cool somehow. So he invited me to go golfing. We went golfing about 3 weeks later, and we hit it off really well. Long story short, he invited me to a mastermind group with 17 other guys. And when I saw that group of individuals, I thought, okay, I have the coaching ability, I have the structure to run events. That's what I've done for many years of my life, working with Deepak Chopra and Tony Robbins and T. Harv Eker and a lot of other educators. And David has a lot of cool friends. If we put those two together, we can create a mastermind. So we created something called GoBundance, a tribe for healthy, wealthy, generous men. That's why you saw a lot of the pictures were with men that want to do bucket list adventures around the world. So we started off with 17. We created a construct where we do meditation and yoga and eat healthy and then do something fun during the day like mountain biking or kayaking or a bunch of stuff you saw there. And then the evening we mastermind around creating wealth. Started off with 17 guys. Today there's over 500. Yes?
So I clearly made a poor decision because I know David Osborne, he's a buddy, as well as Mike McCarthy. They invited me to this and I chose to say no. Pretty stupid, right?
Well, I mean, maybe it just wasn't the right timing.
Think about it. Think about it.
They're a lot younger
Think about
than
it.
you.
Yeah, no, but this was, hold on, this was just 4 years ago. So I was as old then as I am now. It wasn't about age. They thought I was cool then.
Yeah. Well, it's never too late, right?
I want to see.
Yeah. And so here's my point. Here's my point. It's never too late, thank you, and I'm gonna take you up on that. And the only reason I share that is not for you to think I'm cool, because I'm not. The reason I share that with you is for you to see the power of a decision. And had I decided to say yes to Mike McCarthy and David Osborne 4 years ago, how different would my life look? I mean, I have a cool life now, right? Look, I'm in life with all of you. How lucky am I? You are all in my life. Hopefully I've made massive deposits in your lives. You've made deposits in mine. And the decision to say no to something, the decision to say yes to something is a decision to say no to something else and vice versa. And so when you said that, I didn't know that until the end. And when you said that, I went to myself, geez, I should have had a VA, right? Could have had a VA. And that's the only reason I brought that up. And then I would ask myself, how many other times have I made poor decisions? And then you get opportunities to rewrite those decisions, right? Make better decisions, make a different decision. And this is just showing up for me really large now, because I wouldn't have been Rob Thomas, and I would have known Rob Thomas at a different level. And anything and everything else that would have come along with it.
So I have an antidote for that, and it's called say yes and figure it out later. So when David said to me, do you want to come to my place with masterminding, did I ask him how much it cost?
No.
Did I ask him the exact dates? Where I would be sleeping in his house? No. Because your gut knows. Yes? So you've got to start saying yes initially. Those 5 to 10 seconds of courage. Just say yes and figure it out later. You can always reevaluate. And in life, you need to. As a pilot, they reevaluate constantly. In any career, constantly. I'll come to you in a second. And so I went there, and I just kept on saying yes. And we've built this tribe now 6 years with literally thousands of people being affected. And then I created, so it's a tribe of millionaires and just men, but then I created one for people that wanted to become millionaires because I'm good at coaching people and I understand the tools that they require. And I've helped over 41 people become what we call whole life millionaires in the last 2.5 years, which is kind of cool, right? And thank you. And we have over 300 people that continue to be in that ecosystem, of which many of them are doing Airbnb, teaching Airbnb, creating online courses to help other people. We create coaches, we create careers. I've created careers for over 40 people as well that all work within our ecosystem of this mastermind group and that have lit up because some of them were doing something that was their main job, but they didn't have a sideline that fulfilled them. So now some of them are coaching part-time, 5-8 hours a week, but it's lighting them up because you're getting contribute. How many of you like to share your wisdom, contribute, and help other people, right? But sometimes we don't always have the vehicle to do that, right? Yes.
I just want to say on behalf of the room, we all benefit and are grateful for the fact that you share the way you do your missteps, learning from your mistakes. Specifically, you you think back as to why you said no to them?
Yeah, I know exactly why I said no. And it's my reason, and I still to this day believe it's the reason. My mom was dying. And the weekend that they invited me to wherever it was Gold Abundance event, I went back to see my mom in Pennsylvania. And I could have followed up, right? I could have gone to the next event. So that's why I say it's an excuse. And I guess I didn't know how cool it really was. I think I used the wrong file. And that was the reason. It was a bad weekend. It was expensive. And clearly it's worth it. And that was it. And I flew back to see my mom. And
Sometimes it's just a timing thing, right? It's just not meant to be, whatever. But God's delays are not God's denials.
That's the same thing that Tony Robbins does, correct?
So here, I'll tell you the truth, all right? So I'm a Tony Robbins trainer, have been for 17 years. I've done 74 events, walked on fire 45 times, helped hundreds of thousands of people in those events. And here's what I noticed, and you guys can attest to this too, whether it's Bold or Family Reunion or Mega Camp or whatever. You go there, your mind starts to open up, you see possibilities, you Roger Bannister yourself, you come home with a lot of ideas, and you implement almost nothing. And it's not because you don't want to, it's just that you get caught up in life. So I started to look at this, and two things happened. I got pissed off, because as a Tony Robbins trainer, you would come to the event, I'd help you walk over fire, you'd give me a hug later, you say, Rock, you changed my life, I've got these limiting beliefs I'm leaving behind, and I feel great, and I feel awesome, and then you come back 2 years later, you've gained 10 pounds, you're divorced, and and things have fallen apart, or you didn't follow through on the things that you were given. And what actually started to happen was people started to get, I'm not saying depressed, but people started to go, when you're given the recipe and the formula, but you can't execute on it, it's worse than not knowing the formula. So people would go to these places, whether it's, again, Family Reunion, Mega Camp, whatever, Bold, and you're like, well, it's supposed to be easy. Bold laws, yes, and prospect this many hours, and I should double my sales next year, like John did over there. And then it doesn't happen, and then you start that inner narrative that becomes discouraging. So I thought, what's the solution? What's missing? And because I was beaten up by my brother, and because I learned to run away from him, I have a strategic mind. If I play sports on any team, I almost always win, and I don't say that to impress you. I say it because it's the way I'm wired. I will look at every one of you in this room. If we're playing a sport, doesn't matter. We could play ping pong, basketball, hockey, and I will be able to assess your strengths and your weaknesses. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I will know how to cover you, block you, take you out, dominate you, fuck with you, but I will take you out. Not because I'm great, but because it's a survival programming I've had. How many of you follow? That's what makes me an exceptional coach. Plus, I still have that little voice inside that wants you to tell me, as my father would tell me, you're proud. You're impressed at how frickin' I've impacted your life. Does that make sense? That combination leads to, I cannot fail you. I cannot quit on you. Which makes me unfucking stoppable. So, I looked and I examined and I said, what's missing? And here's what's missing. Accountability. But not coaching accountability, peer-to-peer. So the reason it works is that when you're with other people that you respect, the human spirit wants to belong, yes? We belong here in this Keller Williams family. We feel like we matter. We have our place. We don't want to go somewhere else. We want it to work here. True? But we also want to feel special. And some of you, if you don't feel special, I know what you do. You go and hide. You isolate. You do solitary confinement, which is the worst punishment. You do it to yourself. You stop showing up for shit. There's some people that should be here today. Yes? Yes. But they're struggling, and they don't want to admit it, so they'll make up a story and tell Alan, I got to do this, I got to do that. He knows better because he's freaking smart, and you're lucky to have a guy like this as your broker leader. I get to see a lot of people. I can see his choice of words. He's spent some time learning about success in life. Yes? So the secret is to put yourself into an environment where people care so much about their own success, they're willing to challenge you about the success you claim you want. If you tell me you want to run a marathon, you tell me you want 3 more Airbnbs, I'm going to follow up with you and check. How's that going? What are you doing? What's your plan? Is it bulletproof? Talk to Marcus. He's got 42 in Phoenix. He's crushing it. Have a conversation with him. I'm going to bring resources to you. Yes? And if I give my freaking time to you, you better fucking execute. Because that's my most precious commodity. If you put yourself in that environment where people really care, then you're going to push me. Your success is going to inspire me. And we all, tide rises all ships. But I'll tell you this, if it was just information, each one of you would be rock stars because you can just go to Google and Google whatever you want. True or true? It's not enough. You have to have the courage to put yourself in an arena with other people that have the same values. What are our values? Extreme accountability, authentic relationships, being willing to be vulnerable, to grab life big, bucket list adventures. Retirement is bullshit as far as I'm concerned. You want to do cool stuff while you're still young enough to do it. All those things you saw were a fraction of what I've done. I've done an average of 28 trips in the last 6 years. It's almost 180 trips all around the world. And it was my dream to do it. And guess what? Not only did I do it, but I got paid to do it. Cool or cool? 6 years ago, I walked into a room to learn about Keller Williams because something happened for me, not to me. $1.8 million disappeared out of my life. Did I play the victim? Fuck yes. I just didn't live there. I rented space for a while. But I will not own victimhood. I'll visit it because I'm human. We all are, and we all do. But I will not own it. I will not live there. I built my office. I started off in my garage. Today I have 115 agents. The girl that was running my office, she's kept on running her office. She faked bankruptcy. Very, very clever maneuver. She got the master franchise of RE/MAX to collude with her so that she owed them $500,000. So if I took the shares back, which I could, I would have to pay that off. Long story short, today I sold her the business with 265 agents. Today I have 225 agents and she has 135. The principles of success work if you're willing to work them. So the moral of the story for me is have the courage to put yourself into an environment with other people that share the same values that you have. And then pay the price of practice in private so you can perform in public like a pro. So we teach people, what should you do? Rule number 8, tell me what you do before 8 o'clock in the morning and after 8 o'clock at night, and I can predict your financial future for the rest of your life. You can ask me those rules inside out, upside down. You can wake me up in the middle of the night and you can say, what's rule number 7? And I can tell you why, because I live them. And when you live them, you get the results of them, yes? So my offer to you is I want to invite you to whatever you want. But if you want more, if you want another peer group, if you want some of that, then you can come and talk to me. But I have somewhere in here some sort of an offer for you. But this is kind of a cool little thought. We talked about it before is, your parents had this effect on you, but you're also having that effect on your kids. What are you telling your kids that they are or they are not? And by the way, it's very, very interesting because you can tell things to your kids. You can say, you are beautiful. I love you so much because you're so beautiful. Well, now you've installed fear that when they're no longer beautiful, they're not lovable. Yes or yes? So there's many nuances to this. It's not just as simple as, tell your kids you're awesome, you'll amount to everything, you're the greatest, I love you, you can do nothing wrong. It's not as simple as that. There's layers to it. The mind is so fascinating. I had a client, by the way, who inherited her parents' business. She was the poster child. They always told her she was the greatest thing ever. She was beautiful, like a Barbie doll. And when I got working with her, she couldn't sleep. She had nightmares. And she had trauma because she was so afraid to disappoint her parents and fail. She was handed everything. What if she messed it up? Then she wouldn't be enough. How many of you follow? Some of us have my programming where we're told we're not worthy. One of the things I would like to teach you, or have the opportunity to teach you, is what I call MMI. What are you doing to make more money? I'll show you the 37 different ways I'm making it. Each one of you in here, how many of you ever thought of writing a book? How many of you have not yet written it? We need to get you on that path. Everybody has a book, and it's a great process for you to learn about yourself and the gifts that you deserve to give to the world. I've written 3 books. First one I wrote, I was not very proud of because I still had an identity that I'm not a writer. Did anybody see my Goalcast video that came out? Wow. Okay, so check this out. I did a video that's 7.5 minutes long that came out last February, and it's about the power of your identity, the words that follow I am, and your ability to relabel yourself. So I went from pizza face, by the way, with the coaching of my mentor, to ruggedly handsome. All right? And I went from working hard to working smart. I went from being an average agent to the best agent in Montreal. And I did that through the programming, and I wrote that in my book. Then I created a video that talked about that story. And they told me with the marketing company that I had hired that 2 million people would see it. As of today, we're close to 100 million. Wow. Over 100 people personally sent me a message and said that they were going to commit suicide till they saw that video. How do you think that makes me feel? Saved 100 people's lives. Every day, every single day, I still get 5 or 6 different messages. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your mess becomes your message. You all have a book in you. Thank you so much.
Woo! Woo!